At Your End Step is brought to you by Comic Town and BCW Supplies. Hello, and welcome to At Your End Step. My name is Morgan, and I'm here with Mike.
Hello.
And Dave.
Hi.
Were you kind of like a little dolphin in the beginning of that? Hi.
Yeah, I don't really know what I was going for there.
None of us do. We're all here. We're all kind of lost. But we have another fun-filled episode for you folks today. Very, very, like, one community thing to talk about, one single one, and we'll be very short on it. And then a whole bunch of competitive stuff to talk about, and a question of the week I think we're going to try and do. So let's go ahead and get started. So, first and foremost, Commander Anthology. It's a thing. It's going to be happening. It is going to have 4 commander decks within it, as well as 4 of the commander life-keeping die or contraptions, for lack of a better term.
Spin downs. Oh, an actual spin, not like the 20-sided.
Yeah. So, which is pretty cool. Those things are pretty desirable. So, all in all, a pretty nifty package. And the 4 commanders that you get are the Heavily Inferno, so the Mardu, Kalia the Vast, Dragons and Angels deck, or demons as well. And then you have the Evasive Maneuvers with Derevi, I'm going to say.
Yeah, I think so.
The Bird Wizard. And you have Frey at least, the Guided by Nature, monocolored with the Planeswalkers that can also be commanders. And then you have the last one being the Plunder the Graves with Marin of Clan Neltoth, so the green-black one from 2015. So none of the 2016s will be in here, so you only get 4. But, you know, it's kind of a commander game in a box, for lack of a better term. So it's a pretty cool thing. We've already seen this with the dual decks, and we've seen it with Plane Chase as well. So it kind of makes sense for them to just have this. So, but pretty cool.
I should also point out that Heavily Inferno, you can currently buy a sealed copy of that on StarCityGames.com for $200.
Yeah.
Oh.
So, just saying, at MSRP, you're doing fine.
What is the MSRP on this?
I was trying to check it. I think it's... I want to say it was the same as the last 2 were.
Is it less than $200?
I believe it's... I thought it was $150. Maybe I'm crazy, though. I will try to check. I'm sorry. Okay, yeah, you can put it right near my mouth. I get it.
I'm just making sure you're getting picked up.
Well, I appreciate that. Thanks, bud. You're a good wingman.
Yeah. But that's the only community thing to really talk about. Nothing else really happened.
Fun times. I'll try to see if I can get a price on it. So,
I guess, like, we're not really going to talk about 1v1 Commander, but that seems to be the
new hotness.
the hot in the streets format right now.
Yeah,
I mean, apparently Baral was so good that they had to ban things like midweek.
Yeah, and it's still the best thing you could be doing, probably.
Yeah.
But, let's see. Any luck?
nope.
Okay.
It's not in the article anywhere. So,
Oh, interesting.
Well,
So there's a
you could probably
product.
say it's probably worth your while
on
if
here,
one of the
there's
decks
a
is
product page. I'm
$200.
assuming I can find the MSRP here.
It may not have been released yet either.
Maybe not announced. MSRP is $165.
It was a chunk of change for sure, but
No.
But again, if Heavily Inferno is upwards of $200, then you're doing fine.
Now, I don't know how they've done with the previous anthologies, but like, are those things that you can get for MSRP, or is it like, or is it like from the vaults, which you can pretty much never get at MSRP?
a lot of that is determined by the desirability of the actual product.
Right.
So
I guess I just don't know.
So this one is, I mean, you have 2 really good decks. I really feel like I don't know how popular the Bant deck will be, the Derevi deck, and I don't think the Freylease one is that high.
Well, I think though taking MSRP of Commander decks, if each of those decks are worth MSRP of the original price of Commander plus Heavenly Inferno, if you want this, you're not doing bad.
Yeah. And not to mention that there are the life, counters that come with it as well.
You almost only had the Commander
Arsenal.
Yeah.
So that might be worth it. But we'll just kind of have to wait and see. Okay.
Fair enough.
But again, that is the only thing that we have as far as community goes. Now, before we jump into our competitive, we of course want to give a shout out to one of our sponsors, Comic Town. They have a ton of weekends, a ton of events.
They have as many weekends as everyone else does.
It's true. They have a ton of events happening over the weekend here. There's going to be a Team Trios event actually on Saturday, which is fairly exciting.
I'm pretty pumped.
Yeah, because Trios events are always great, always a good time, and that is going to also connect to the Comic Town Championship Series, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
And so you can actually queue. Your entire team can actually queue, which is fairly exciting. So a pretty cool thing, fairly unique, and honestly going to be great prep for a GP Cleveland. So
well, all of us will be there.
Yeah. I was excited for this event, and then both of my teammates actually dropped out on me today, but then I got a new team, so now I'm re-excited for it. So I went from excited to disappointed to excited again.
No, there's still time.
There's still time, yeah.
The cycle can still continue.
Yeah, let's hope not. But as it stands, I'm ready to go.
For sure. So definitely check that out. They also have an IQ that's going to be happening this weekend.
Modern IQ on Sunday.
A modern IQ on Sunday, which is going to be, I know that's a big draw for a lot of people, and we're going to be talking a lot of modern in our show today. So if you can't make it out to the team event, then show up for modern and have a good time. But those are the two big ones that are happening Saturday and Sunday, respectively, for each of the tournaments over the weekend there. But check out Comic Town Gaming Center on Facebook for more information about these events and to see what's happening in the future as well. All right. Let's move on.
We can see the future?
I mean, event-wise, yes. They have a calendar.
That's not really cool.
No. It's not like, actually, you're not going to get, winning lottery numbers or anything like that. Unfortunately. They don't provide that service.
Can we do, how about, will Facebook give me, Touched by an Angel, newspaper clippings in my feed?
I don't think so. I don't think that's going to be the case either. You'll kind of... They'll tell you, what events are happening.
I think I'm getting...
in the future.
I think I'm getting TV shows mixed up. I think there's a TV show called Morning Edition that was about newspapers in the future. You know what? I'm
that
sorry.
Sounds like
an
80s or early 90s show for sure.
The sad thing is, I'm fairly certain that I'm right. And
well, while you look that up, let's jump into competitive then. So over the weekend, there was
called early edition. I'm sorry.
You did it. So over the weekend, there were a few GPs, and we're going to actually start off with Grand Prix Kobe. And it was a modern, and it had a ton of players. It had 2K, over 2K, right?
Almost 3K. It was 28 something.
Yeah, that's a healthy amount.
In typical Japanese GP fashion.
They just blew the doors off the thing, so which is not surprising. The Magic community there is so passionate, and they don't tend to get a lot of events, and it's nice to see them have such a large event for Modern, because I know that Modern cards are actually fairly expensive there. That's kind of why the Frontier format was even caught fire over there, because they had access to these cards that couldn't really break into Modern or were banned in Modern, and didn't have access to cheap Modern actual cards, so they made Frontier, but looks like people found their Modern decks.
Yeah, the only downside is these, when you get these kind of numbers for GPs, it really highlights how bad the price structure is, because there were people that went X and 3 in this tournament and didn't cash.
Yeah,
and it's that's frustrating. But I don't really know what the answer is, other than just put more money into it.
Yeah, prize appropriately. That's a different conversation, but that is the answer.
Yeah, but In any case, great turnout as expected. I think for Japanese GP.
Yeah.
A surprising winner, in my opinion.
Yeah,
not the player, but the deck.
That's what I was about to say. We see that the tournament was won by Joso. Thank you for having an easily pronounceable name, so that I don't make myself look like an idiot. And he was playing White Black Eldrazi, which is sort of a known quantity, but it's not something that's necessarily very popular. And we see it show up here. And let me take a look. Pull up the deck.
You know who else showed up? The Wasteland Strangler. He's been laying low for a while, but he's been cited in
international Strangler.
Yeah, he's been cited in Japan.
Oh man,
killing tournaments.
So I will say I played a deck fairly similar to this when we still had Ayavugan. Like this is the flavor of Eldrazi I played after the Eldrazi Pro Tour.
Yeah,
it was actually really
main deck
sweet.
relics.
Yeah,
using the I guess the Wasteland Strangler.
Mine also had Blight Herders too. Like it went all in on that idea.
This isn't going that hard. Yeah, this is it's kind of.
It almost looked like a Taxes deck.
It's kind of like the Eldrazi and Taxes deck, but it doesn't have like Thalias or anything like that.
Or Aether Vial.
Or Aether Vial,
which is sort of like the big deal.
Right. So it is kind of like he put his own twist, and I guess I was reading a little bit on the text coverage, and he was doing really well on day one, and they kind of interviewed him, and he said he kind of like brewed this up himself. I mean, it is similar to stuff that we've seen, but we haven't seen anything exactly like this. And I guess he did like 5 leagues on Magic Online and went like 5-0 in 3 of them, and then 4-1 in the other 2. And he was just like, all right, I guess I got a deck. Like, obviously, it worked out well for him. So that's pretty cool. It's like don't always see like a ton of actual innovation in Modern. I mean, you see a lot of decks, but like it's very rare that you see like a kind of a new spin just come out of nowhere and win the tournament.
And if you're looking for something even a little bit like I'll say cheaper in Modern, like this deck really like it's not playing any Marsh Flats, like it's playing a bunch of cards that have been in Standard or almost like recently in Standard, like Caves of Kolios and obviously Concealed Courtyard, obviously the Eldrazi, and also a lot of these cards were printed in that Modern event deck, so like a lot of these cards have randomly stayed like affordable. So like it's kind of cool that it won, but also like it's sort of a budget option. Like you have Mutavaults, I think is like one of the real choke points.
Mutavaults and Eldrazi type.
Fulminator Mage, Fulminator Mage is the board, but you don't have to do Fulminator Mage. Like it probably is helpful, but I like the cast out in the sideboard. Look at that! Can't see play in Standard, but Modern wins GPs.
I mean, it is a cyclable card that does catch out a lot of weird things. So sometimes you just need a card to answer something that you don't necessarily have access to, and it's a good catch-all. I mean, and when you don't need it, it just is another card.
It's a good catch-all. Doesn't get abrupt decayed.
Yeah, that's important too.
Like you can bring it against like even like Liliana the Veil and not feel bad about it.
Yeah.
So like you can feel bad because you're spending 4 mana on 3, but it's an instant. So, but like Lingering Souls continues to just be a card that's pretty good, and in a Death Shadow metagame, Lingering Souls is real good. So not really surprising to see. Like I think this deck is surprising, but not that surprising to see it do this well. So, but cool to see. Honestly, have not well known archetype take it down.
We mentioned the main deck relics too. It's like we saw Dredge do pretty well as on the whole on the weekend. We saw place pretty well in all the tournaments that happened. So obviously, I mean, it's pretty good there. It does good work against Death Shadow decks too. Like it doesn't completely shut them down, but it's annoying. Like I've played against it. It's like gotta get that off the board before I can really go crazy.
Yeah, like I have to like take a turn to like Colgan's command this.
Yeah, and no matter what version of Shadow you're playing, like it's going to be annoying whether you're playing Grixis or like a more green based version. So it was a good call there. So
congrats,
good on
good
him.
deck.
Yeah. We see in the rest of the top 8, we have Dredge being the other finalist, played by Teramasa Kojima, and we already commented on Dredge has been seeing pretty consistent performances.
Yeah, it did well in all 3 events.
Yeah.
So
it was definitely one of the. I mean, it's definitely one of the decks that should have been on your radar in some persuasion. But I think that a lot of ways to combat it also hurts like the deck that you want to play. Like some of the best cards that you can play against Dredge are incompatible with the decks that are also good. Like when you talk about like Death Shadow,
Yeah,
but that is a good deck, but it is a deck that can't play like Rest in Peace, which is really really awkward, or can't play like to its maximum efficacy like Relic of Progenitus, where the white black Eldrazi deck, as we commented on, could, so it's pretty interesting.
I like how Dredge is positioned right now in the metagame too. It has a positive matchup against Death Shadow. Like it's not like a blowout, but it's pretty good against Death Shadow.
Yeah.
And it's a deck that and it kind of always has been. It's a deck that you really need to devote a decent amount of sideboard slots to. You can't just throw 2 surgicals in your board and think that that's going to be good enough. You really want to devote at least 4, I think, or 4 slots overall to beating Dredge. And even then, I mean, they could still win. So it's there are so many different decks to prepare for that spending 4 slots on one deck that you might play once in the tournament it's kind of a tough ask. So it's getting by because people aren't really dedicating all the hate that they need to beat it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny because it feels like it's been a lot better since Grave Troll got banned than it was,
which is
Grave
weird.
Troll. Yeah, it's just people aren't targeting it as much.
Right.
Right. And in third place, we see a Grixis Death Shadow list. And Grixis is also, specifically Grixis Death Shadow is the, Death Shadow variant that we see have the best results overall, at least in, when we're looking at, top placing lists.
Yeah.
Take its place as being the, potentially best at this point in time version of the Death Shadow deck.
And it's getting pretty close to done being tuned here. We'll see the winning lists across the other ones and this we have sideboard differences Ceremonious Rejection versus Fulminator Mage, but we're seeing one Fatal Push cut for a Terminate or that slot, and that seems to be about it. It's super close to being consensus, which is scary. We just honed in on it.
Yeah, we did it, guys. We figured out the optimal version. No, but I mean, yeah. If you compare all the lists side by side, they're really only off by a couple cards.
Yeah, it is not much.
So yeah, but I expect we'll talk more about that list when we get to the other.
Yeah, and Modern is just a format where you'll have flex slots in your deck. You're not going to have the perfect 75 that you don't have any flexible sideboard cards or main deck cards. So it is something that will fluctuate from time to time. But when we see we're getting down to maybe 5-7 card differences between the 75s, then yeah, we're there. We're at that pinnacle.
When it does that well, I would say a tournament in this region, and the cards are that close, because these sort of tournaments, you're looking at a first place list, you tend to see some more unique builds.
Yeah,
so.
the meta game, specifically in Japan, is a little bit different than what you would expect to see in a world entirety. In a world entirety meta game.
In a world where Japanese players build Magic decks.
If you want to talk about some wild stuff, let's.
Esper Control?
I just wanted to shout out real quick on the Affinity list.
Oh, okay.
That's running One Collected Company.
What?
Because
I mean,
sure.
why
not? So yeah, that's a thing. And then even in the sideboard of this list, it had some. It's got I guess it's not that crazy, but it's got a lot of one-ofs of random bullets that are really good. It's one Rest in Peace, one Blood Moon. I guess Whip Flare's pretty.
Man, can you
pretty
show your
standard.
opponent the One Collected Company game 1 and then make them board their dispels in? Oh man,
I don't even know. What are you? Are you doing mid combat Collected Company to get a Ravager or something and just completely blow them out?
Oh my gosh! Just get 2 artifacts just so you can pump your cranial plating.
That's wild.
I'm fairly certain you could do a lot of pretty interesting things with Collected Company. Man, you just got to make your opponent feel so disgusted. You're just "Ugh, ugh,
Yeah.
ugh." That is fairly interesting though.
The Esper Control list played by Akio Chiba. This one was a little bit more methodical in its craziness, I think.
It still starts with 4 Glory Bound Initiate.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Yeah, it's not just like one random, one collected company thrown in. This was like purposefully. I'm playing Glory Brown Initiate and Modern. We're doing it.
That I mean, I don't know why you need to play like a 3/1. It is a 3/1. Like it attacks for 4, but I mean, like I don't get it.
No, you know why he plays it?
I don't. Please tell me.
Turn 2, Glory Bound, attack, right? I forget what the ability is. But Exert, yeah, right. Gain 4. Cast Painful Truths, because he also has 4 of those, too.
Sure. Yeah?
I know, I get the curve. Like,
yeah.
I just, like, there's actually infinite fatal pushes around. It's just like, you know what I want to put in my control deck? 4 of these.
4 of these 2-mana 3/1s. Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know. I was going to say maybe Burn was an issue.
He top 8 of the GP.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. So, like, it's just like, I saw it, I was like, what? Like, all right.
Glory Bound Initiate.
Got Batterskull in here, too?
Yeah. Batterskull's great.
I did not...
Good magic card.
I did not think that Glory Bound Initiate would be a modern card.
You didn't
especially not
top 8?
Especially not in this style of deck. Like if it were like maybe in a more like white weenie humans type shell.
I just like that all these good white cards from Standard that can't see play in Standard are top 8ing GPs.
Yeah, in Modern. Yeah, exactly. What does that say?
So yeah, this list is pretty wild. But I mean, other than that, I guess you have like the one Devour Flesh is like the other like tech card.
Well,
which is like it's hot.
You can then like sack your own 4/4 because it's not going to tap anyways.
Yeah, you could do that, or you could kill all their Death Shadows.
That is also true.
Which is pretty sweet. But so there's that, and then I guess one of the more well-known players in the top 8 are Ryochi Tamada, who we saw finish second at Pro Tour last year. He's playing a Jeskai. I wouldn't really call this control. It's like a Jeskai tempo deck.
Yeah,
or Jeskai Burn.
Main.
It's like Jeskai Burn. Yeah, his creatures are 4 Snapcasters, 4 spell Quellers. And then his spells are just all 4 as Lightning Bolt, Path, Serum Visions, Lightning Helix, Logic Knot, Electrolyze, Cryptic Command.
Yeah, it's a unique one.
Yeah. Kind of a
could
different...
not play this deck. Like, I'm looking at this deck, I'm like, I could not play this deck.
So I played his list when he was playing the thing in the Ice Ascension deck before, which was another deck that basically had like all 4-0s in it.
Sure.
And I actually specifically played his list, and it was a little wild.
Yeah, again, I'm just saying, I personally, looking at this list, could not do it.
No.
Not brave enough, not smart enough, could not do it.
I could see myself playing this, but I mean, I have too much fun playing Death Shadow, so, maybe if that deck gets banned or something, then I'll switch over to something like this, but...
Yeah, so that was some spice. Morgan, I want to point out something random to you in the top 32 here.
Oh, yeah?
There's Eldrazi list, which has kind of disappeared for a little while after being, like, a really good deck. So it's kind of interesting. But there's a Hallow in the main deck of this.
What?
Prevent all damage target spell would deal this turn. You gain life equal to the damage prevented this way.
What list was or
This was the 26th place Takumi Takanaka, Eldrazi.
Oh. That's a card.
Yeah, that I don't know what you're doing with this card, but man, if there's a gotcha ever,
I don't. What? It's only a spell too, so you can't even do it to like a creature. So you can't like.
I guess like the dream is like lightning
storm,
like
right? Deflecting palm them, at Emrakul or something. I got nothing.
I have no idea. I have no idea. Like your opponent's like, I'll bolt you in response. I'm like, I don't know how you win there, but
yeah, some of these I almost feel like they got to be typos. But it's like,
but look at all the cards we just saw. Like it can't be right.
I don't know. Like, how do you decipher which one could potentially be a typo and which one isn't?
Yeah, it's rough.
Is there anything else specifically you guys want to talk about?
No, I think we can see like one thing we could say here is that like we have White Black Eldrazi, Dredge, Grixis Death Shadow, Eldrazi Tron, Ad Nauseam Infinity, Esper Control, Blue White Red, Burnish Control. 8 top 8 slots, 8 different actual decks. And if you go into 9th, 4-color company, 10th, Titan Shift. So you have to go back down to 11th place for another Grixis Shadow deck to get to a repeat of an archetype. So, like, man, Modern's great.
All right, and one last thing I just want to point out here is the 28th and 29th place lists. So we have a pair of Vizier Nightfall lists by Suqing Kuo and Kelvin Chu. So another couple of the well-known players in the field, and I believe they're actually playing an exact 75, same list, and this kind of combines the kind of the Bant Nightfall list that we saw with the Reliquary and Retreat to Koraham combo, along with the Devoted Druid Vizier of Remedies combo. So it kind of mashes those together, which I think is pretty cool. I do think that like that shell of the Devoted Druid and Vizier can go in a couple different ways, and I think we'll talk about a couple other versions that kind of came out this weekend. But I just wanted to shout out on this list here because obviously they had a field of almost 3,000 players. You had 2 people playing the exact 75 in the top 32. I think there's got to be something there. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, it's one thing if you have a one-off, but when you have 2 players finishing pretty high up, I think there's something to keep an eye on.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
It is something to point out that we do have other counter companies, sort of the more
interspersed,
streamlined version that's still showing up, and that deck is it has made itself show up as a permanent sort of archetype going forward, and we'll talk more about it as we move along here.
I think it was much more popular in the Star City
circuit
Open, but we'll get to that.
All right. Are we ready to go on to the next GP?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So next up we had GP Copenhagen. It was 1,800 plus players, so 1,850. 15, excuse me, not 50, 15. And it was won by Mattia Rizzi playing Grixis Shadow, a deck that we kind of already talked about a little bit. We have the top 36 deck list.
Oh yeah, they just threw 4 extra ones in there.
Okay.
Yeah. No, that's not a typo. That's
just cause.
That's really.
We see that Mattia played against Living End in the finals, piloted by Christian Ortiz Ros. And Living End did actually get I think the only card they got is Horror of the Broken Lands.
Yeah, that card's a really good.
It's a good get. It's a good get. I'm not going to deny that.
Is he playing the demon?
No, it's the first thing I looked for.
So what's hilarious about the demon? There's this card called Vizier of Remedies that just got printed, and the demon doesn't do anything against that card.
Sweet card.
So I think Martin Yuza or someone else had put out an updated. I forget who it was, but an updated Vizier list, and that was their argument. It was, an updated, Living End deck, and there are 0 demons, and it says this is Vizier of Remedies, LOL. So
horror just makes sense too, because they can just cut all you don't need the land cycling ones anymore. You can just play all one mana cyclers.
Yeah,
and that's a big deal.
Yeah, I was gonna say the demon being 2 mana is actually a big deal.
Absolutely,
not making the cut. So. It kind of makes sense, but it's such a sweet card. I just wanted to see it.
But I mean,
I'm sort of surprised the Death Shadow win here. I think Living End can be a tricky matchup.
Oh, it definitely was. The finals was kind of it was one of those really clunky, basically game 1, our Living End resolved, and then the Shadowless returned 2 Street Wraiths, and then they had Swamp Walk. And he had to do it off of a was it Demonic Dread? Yeah, that's the sorcery speed one. So he got to attack first. So he had 2 Street Wraiths to his opponent's 1 Street Wraith, and he was able to beat it out. So it was that, and then there was the next game and had I can't remember if it went to 3 games or not, but basically there was a Leyline of the Void involved, where the Grixis deck didn't have a graveyard and then was just beating down with Snapcasters. So it was a really clunky, weird match, but I think it's probably favored for Living End overall.
Yeah, I think so too.
But I don't think it's especially with the Grixis version, because you have Stubborn Denial, I don't think it's like that bad.
Yeah, Stubborn Denial definitely really helps in that matchup. I will say though that like
Helps in every match. That
well,
card-
it's very good. It's very good. But I do think like Living End is one of the harder decks to even like it's super hard to discard out of the game. Like you know what I mean? Like as a combo deck, like a lot of combo decks, like the Gift Storm that's in here, like Martin Mueller played in fourth place. Like that deck definitely can roll over to discard effects before it has to, but like Living End, like it draws pretty well off the top, and with its cyclers that like discard effects can feel pretty like hopeless against it. So
yeah, they don't quite do what you want them to do sometimes.
No, they get a lot of fresh looks before you really get to gain tempo off of it.
Right.
So
we see Lantern Control actually show up in third place, piloted by Kim Stroh.
yay on. Yay.
Is there anything new going on here?
They're playing 4 ley lines main. That's fairly new.
Gosh, that feels
Probably
miserable.
pretty good.
I mean, if you're
it's all the
expecting
Death Shadow
if you're
decks.
expecting all Death Shadow like Grixis Death Shadow, ley line feels nice.
Oh gosh, could you imagine like game 1? I have actions before the start of the game.
I'd call a judge. I'm not kidding. I would call a judge. I would call a judge and ask to confirm a list. Like that sounds terrible, but like it's literally never happened to me ever before, and I'd be like, "Wow, that seems really weird." Judge.
that would be like the grossest thing. I would hate that in Modern. Just be like, well, okay.
Yeah, you do. You obviously you're going to pick up percentage against Death Shadow decks that are trying to hit you with discard or burn, stuff like that. But then like against Affinity, it's going to be like, oh,
You just like die because one of your cards.
I already mulliganed.
Well,
because I had this
you also
card.
like heavily increase your chances of mulliganing because like anytime you have 2 of that card, you really have to like you better hope that it's good or you're going to have to mulligan because like you literally essentially at that point have a 4-card hand. So like assuming you play a land drop, you know what I mean? Like that's rough.
It's definitely like a gambit that you have to run if you're going to go that route.
Sure,
you know what I
and
mean?
it obviously paid off here.
Yeah.
But I'm glad it didn't win. Sorry. Kim Stroh. I don't know if it's Stroh or Stru with the umlaut. Either way, you're scum. I don't know. I'm sorry. That's not true. I take that back. You're not. I just don't play that deck anymore. Don't do it.
I think Lantern is a
one likes
fine. I think Lantern's a fine deck, but it is absolutely miserable to play against, to watch on camera. Like whenever I saw it on camera, I just turned it off and came back.
So how much worse is and I'm just being honest. How much worse is watching Lantern on camera than watching Eggs was?
They're both equally bad.
I think Lantern's worse.
Nah, I don't think Lantern's worse.
Because I think most of the time, once Eggs started going off, it took a long time, but its end result was winning the game. Lantern has no intention of doing that when it's going off. It's like, this is going to take 15 turns, but you will not have a library.
Are we talking about like actual Eggs, like the deck that got banned, or
Yes,
the new
like-
KCI
no,
decks that are kind of
the
like
actual
that?
Eggs deck that got banned.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. They're both pretty bad.
yes.
I'm not advocating banning anything in Lantern from it. Mark's hopeful, but
All right, so you mentioned Gift Storm. So Martin Mueller finishing in the top 4 here.
having another good run.
Yeah, I mean he's a really good player. I mean he's hit platinum like the last two years. And he's on his way to the third one.
I don't think they interviewed him for anything this time though.
they just like they put him on a tape delay or
yeah, we got an interview with Martin Mueller.
yeah.
He's on
I'd be
the sweet
interested.
10-minute delay.
I'd be interesting to hear if he messed up any of his games.
Yeah,
Well, he
this
has
time.
messed up before.
Yeah, yeah.
he will again. So
No, but it's kind of surprising to me that this blue-red Storm deck has done decently well. I mean, we saw a couple that finished in the top 32 in Japan. They just seem so bad against Death Shadow. Like, with all the discard, especially Grixis Shadow, with you have discard and counter spells to fight through, it's just like, it's just such an uphill battle. Now, I do understand against something like Counters Company, like that deck must be a buy, basically, because they can't really... They're not going to be able to interact too well. So I get that, but I don't know. I mean, obviously he's a great player, but I don't know if I could just roll up on a tournament and be like, oh yeah, Gift Storm.
I'd want to see that match actually play out because I feel like that's not a buy. Like they can't
against Counters Company.
Yeah, because they actually go off faster than you do.
Sure, but you can interact.
You have
as well.
almost no interaction. You have 2 remands and you have to use a grape shot to kill it. Otherwise, what actual interaction does this deck have?
Well, I mean, in the board he has Dismember, Bolt,
Sure.
Pyroclasm. Like
He has 1,
2
2,
Dismembers,
3,
1
4,
Bolt.
5. Okay, so
Yeah.
5
It's
pieces you
just-
can bring
it's a
in.
decent
It's not bad. I just like when I look at the main deck here, like I'd actually want to see at least game ones play out because I feel like that's actually not true. But obviously, that deck if it doesn't have the combo in turn 2, then that's pretty soft. So maybe that's it. But like it's like it doesn't actually interact at all. No, I'm surprised by it too. Like I played Andrew Stroud, like I said, in the team, the team event last weekend, and I think like as a player, Andrew Stroud is definitely really very good. And when it comes to Storm, he's definitely very good.
Oh, yeah.
So like, and I didn't feel like our match was close.
Yeah, I've never played Storm in Modern, but I've played against it a lot, like throughout the history of Modern. And because it's always been there, it's been better.
It never really
others.
dies.
Right? Yeah, they'll just keep banning cards. It doesn't matter because they'll just apparently just keep the Storm cards in there for some reason.
It's like the Frieza of like Magic decks. This is like, this is even my
always-
Final Four, man.
Always keeps coming back.
But like, yeah, this is definitely like, in my opinion, like the most fair version. Like, there's no Pirates or Ascension that's gonna copy a bunch of things and like be really degenerate. It's just basically, it's like, hey, you know what? Let's add more creatures. That'll make it better.
Well, I
but
think
it does.
I think it highlights how good, like people forget like how good of a card like just Gifts Ungiven is. Like,
Yeah.
like this is the only deck that's playing it currently, but that card is obscene in this deck.
And it's not doing anything like super tricky. It's like basically when you gifts, you're getting like 2 rituals of Past in Flames and like
you get
a storm
get
spell.
3 awesome spells, and then you're getting a Past in Flames either way.
Yeah.
like it's like okay. Like, oh well, that's gonna be like you get to do it on their turn to set up your turn. Like that's got to be the appeal to this deck because like that card is like whenever if you go turn 2 guy and then like can hold up gifts on turn 3 and your opponent can't tap out or has to have the perfect piece of interaction because woof, they're gonna die.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean it's just another solid deck. I think in Modern, I probably will never play it. I'm always like kind of tempted to play like, oh yeah, this might be good, and then I'm like, then I just feel real bad when I just get Thoughtseize on turn 1 and like don't get to do anything.
Oh. Yeah,
Anyway.
I mean that's the risk, but having a non-interactive sort of combo deck is appealing, and if it's good in the hands of the right player, then like sure, why not? And Gifts is just like Storm is just sort of the thing that just never, like we already said, never really goes away. It lays dormant, and then like it gets one card, and it's like we're back at it. We're getting the band back together.
So what have they all banned out of it? So they banned like Rite of Flame,
all the
preemptively.
ritual cards.
Yeah, so Rite of Flame preemptively. Then it was like Seething Song. Then Gataxian Probe. Was there anything else in the middle there? Oh, I guess like Ponder and Prairian.
Yeah,
Those were in for a brief period of time. Yeah,
Yeah.
but
I mean, out of the decks that have gotten bans and then kept on kicking, Storm is definitely up there. So, if not the most deck with a target on its back.
yeah, we had a. I guess we'll get to this, but there was an Amulet Titan deck in the top 8 of SCG Open.
Mhm.
So there's another deck that got banned and is still kind of around.
Yeah.
So, but I guess that's the goal, right? That's what you want. Like you want the deck to still be playable, but just
Right.
not like over the top busted.
Yeah.
Anyway. Do you want to talk about any of these Counters Company decks? Just like the normal version.
Sure. I mean, are we going to do that here? Or do we want to do that in the open?
All right. We can save it for the open, I guess.
Yeah. No, we're good. I mean, we're good to move on to that. So, do we have something else?
Yeah. Just did you guys see the Jund shadow list in the top 8 of Copenhagen?
I actually had it open. Yeah, it's pretty sweet.
It's like this is like almost a throwback to the old Death Shadow list.
Yeah, this is running like Grim Flayers and Renegade Ralliers.
Oh yeah.
Monastery Swiss
see
Spear.
that.
Rival Flames.
Yeah, Monastery Swift Spear and Wild Mikado again. Yeah, these are like the old, like kill you on turn 3. Though I don't think this one can kill on turn 3.
Oh no,
But-
it just only has a lot of threats.
Well, it could kill on turn 3. It has Battle Rage.
Yeah, but it has almost no way to reduce your life total. It has fetches, it has street rates, and it has 2 mutagenic growth.
Yeah, that's all you need.
But that certainly isn't all you need. It certainly
It doesn't have probe.
Doesn't that pro? I guess you can bolt yourself.
You played that list. We both played like the old Death Shadow list.
Oh no,
yeah, it was consistent.
This
turn
is
3.
nowhere near that. Like
it was a consistent turn 3 with disruption.
Like
it was,
you were almost never playing a Death Shadow in turn 2 with this deck. You were always playing a Death Shadow in turn 2. Sometimes in turn 1. So.
Yeah, but this list was just kind of out of nowhere.
Yeah, it's weird.
Just a much more creature-based aggression. Where like the Shadow list that you see now have like 12 creatures basically, and like 4 of them are Street Wraith. So if you look at like the Jund base ones, they're just basically like 4 Death Shadow, 4 Tarmogoyf, 4 Street Wraith, and like sometimes they'll have like a one of Gore Clan or whatever.
Yeah, like some
like
one-off
a tutor
creature.
Target. Yeah. This is just like 4 Death Shadow, 4 Swift Spear, 4 Wild Nikado, 4 Tarmogoyf. You still get the Street Wraiths. You have like 2 Gore Clans. Renegade Rallier is like kind of a nice value creature. Yeah, this is like a different way you could go, and like I don't know, like there might be something to this. Now, you're probably a lot weaker to the combo decks because you don't have Thoughtseize and Inquisition, and you don't have Stubborn Denial and things like that. But
you have them in the sideboard. You don't have them.
Yeah, you can work that in. Yeah. So yeah, I mean this was surprising. It was surprising to see a version like this that did this well, but maybe that's a legitimate way to take it.
Yeah, and it's like another way that you can do it. And I mean, why not?
Yeah,
diversity is sweet.
The Ratchet Bombs on the board are a little strange to me, but
yeah, a little slow.
Like it's just a weird card to have in an aggro deck.
I agree. Sometimes you need an interesting answer.
Maybe he didn't have any engineered explosives.
Sometimes you got to work for him.
You can get that up to 5 in this deck.
Did you know that Ratchet Bomb can be Ancient Grudged?
Oh, I heard that. I've never actually done that before, but I heard that could happen.
Oh, interesting.
I had 2 more lists I want to talk about if that's cool.
Yeah.
I do also want to point out, you could say Death Shadow is like one archetype if you want to, though they're pretty different. You had 7, if not 8, different archetypes in top 8 of this GP as well. So, just saying. Merton Yuza.
Oh, yeah.
Playing Elves in 16th, but he's playing, actually, Vizier Elves.
Yeah, this is sweet.
So, like, I don't think I'll tell you how Elves works in Modern. Like, it's the same sort of, like, fast mana build to an Azuri build. But he was playing 4 Devoted Druid and 1 Vizier Remedies. So you could chord for the Vizier, have infinite mana, and go off with your Azuri that turn. Which seems like taking a deck that was already fine, like, was good. And I think this element actually does make it a lot better. Like, this to me feels a ton better.
Yeah, I like the idea of just having, like, 1 Vizier in your deck, rather than having, like, 4 Viziers and then 4 Devoted Druids, because on their own, like, Devoted Druid's, like, okay. Vizier is trash on its own.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I mean, I guess, like, it's Kitchen Finks, you can do some shenanigans, but, like, it's not good. But yeah, just having the 1 feels much better. You're like, okay, I'm not going to draw like multiple ZDs in my hand. I can tutor for it when I need it, but my chances of actually drawing it aren't that great. And it functions really well as just a regular elf deck.
Right.
It's not like going way out of its way to add the combo.
No, it can just play mana guys into an Archdruid, into an Azuri, and just kill that way too. But it does seem like if you all right, I need to go off this turn. Like, how do I get infinite mana? Oh, this is how. So
apparently you can also, if you have 2 Devoted Druids and an Azuri, you could go off that way. But like keep pumping, and then it makes your Devoted Druids bigger, so that you can put more minus counters on them.
That's actually sweet. So yeah, I want to mention that because like I know people love Elves, and again, like this feels like Elves just a little bit better, and like Martin Hughes playing Elves, like I think is also just like.
Yeah, he lost playing for top 8, so he was close.
And then I want to mention Jeskai Copycat, which shows up again in the top 32. This is a little bit different build than we've seen, but I can't say how much I really like these decks. Like I really do like these decks, and I'm just really glad because like Saheeli Rise are going to be like nothing as we keep going forward. So
that's true.
But this is the same like Snapcaster Mage's Wall of Omens, Vendilion Click, Saheeli Rai, but it has like this Jace Architect of Thought, which I think every time I see that card in a list, I just get like really excited because like I still remember BBD's Splinter Twin list with all those in it, and I was like, I had it ready to play it, and they banned Splinter Twin. I was like, but I didn't even get to cast all these sweet Jace Architect of Thoughts. You don't understand. But how sweet would it be to like you play your Jace, tick it up, right? Next turn, you're like, I'll tick down. Okay, cool. That'll play my Felidar Guardian. Flicker my Jace. I just want to do it. But I think like these decks are actually pretty good. Like this has like a lot of one-ofs, and I don't know how great that is, but like I don't know. It's something about these decks appeal to me.
I mean, it's basically just got control. I mean, there's nothing.
It's bad Splinter Twin, but I miss Splinter Twin enough to play bad Splinter Twin, so I still think the Felidar Guardian's actively kind of difficult to kill. Like
It kind of is.
like Fatal Push can get it, like as long as you keep a fetch up. But like it can't be bolted, it can't be regular pushed, it can't be abrupt decayed, and like so you can abrupt decay the Saheeli, but like even then like it's a little interesting to interact with. So it's not the worst.
But I mean, this is a fine power level for modern.
Oh,
Definitely
yeah.
not fine for standard, but yeah.
Yeah, also gets only 4 Spreading Seas, which is like even against like the Death Shadow decks is kind of tough sometimes depending on their land draws. You know what I mean? Like shutting off like a Blood Crypt and making it to an island is pretty awkward. Like we were talking before about the land in that deck, Dave, and like how it plays the Steam Vents, but how like you almost never want the Steam Vents. Like it is the worst land in your deck. So sometimes like a well-timed like Spreading Seas can really like set you back.
That's part of the reason, like, personally, I'm not a big fan of the 4-color and up versions of Death Shadow. I like just sticking to 3 colors, whether it's just Jund or Grixis. Right now I'm leaning to Grixis, but, like, and that 4th color, like, sometimes can really come back to bite you. You know?
Yeah, like when you get Spreading Seas.
Like when you get Spreading Seas. Or if you go up against the Blood
And they just flicker their Spreading Seas and put a 1/4 into play, and you're like, alright, I see you. I get it. So... yeah, this deck looks sweet, and of course it's white too, so you got all the best sideboard cards, but I don't know, whenever I see this list pop up, I'm like, yeah, that's right. You keep letting them know. You let them know you're still there.
Just here, hanging out in the back of the room.
Anybody hear a meowing sound? I did. It's a cat combo.
All right, anything else from Copenhagen?
No, I think I got it out of my system.
All right. Let's move on to Baltimore. And so this is an open hosted by Star City Games, and it had a total of 900 players that reached the cap. So,
Isn't it the second time in a row the modern open has hit the cap?
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure yes, and they have another Modern Open coming up in a couple weeks here in Charlotte, which I am currently planning on attending. So I will probably need to pre-reg for that.
Yes,
sooner rather than later.
You would want to.
And if
Correct.
any of you listeners plan on going to that, I would recommend that you pre-reg because you don't want to be
left out
that
in the
person
cold.
that's left out. Yeah.
And it was won by Brad Nelson playing Grixis Shadow. Again, we kind of see that deck be a fairly legitimate in existence, and really showing to be maybe the better choice out of the Death Shadow variants that you can play. And we actually see he defeated Dredge, piloted by none other than Team Metagames Guru member Ben Friedman, 40-card Friedman. So his hat could not save him, unfortunately, from the Grixis Death Shadow beats.
He wasn't wearing the hat. That was the problem.
Oh no! That it took all his power.
Yeah.
It was Samson-like in its way.
So the game one was pretty funny in the finals because Brad either thought seized or stubborn denial like one of the enablers, and it was like way to like get things into the graveyard. So he was able to like prevent Ben from really like starting the dredge engine going.
Yeah,
and like Friedman's hand was just like absolute garbage. Like it was just like all the things that you just couldn't cast. Like you didn't do anything, and then you just died. Like it was just.
I mean,
kind of embarrassing.
Sometimes that's just how it is.
So I want to say, as far as Ben's list, this is really close to, if not the same. We'll have to go check. But what Jim Davis was on, we played last week.
That's not surprising.
Back to Life in the Loam, having like a one of Haunted Dead in the main, like Vengeful Fair out of the board, which I saw against Jim. So, but that's like Life of the Loam was pretty interesting because.
That's pretty standard, right? Like that's just.
Well, it wasn't until after we got the banning of the Grave Troll again.
Well, yeah.
But
But part of their big game plan is getting the the conflagrate.
Right. Well, yeah, for sure. When I played against him, like, because like I never saw the Haunted Dead, and I did see Jim's whole deck at least game one.
Mm-hmm.
So that might be a new ad, and that seems pretty sweet because like there were definitely times like you said you get things stuck in your hand, and that card can be sweet. And also just like the little things in this deck, like people were like, oh well, now to play Golgari Thug. It's like, well, against Death Shadow, like when I was attacking and they had Golgari Thugs, it was awkward. Like it was really awful because like they could block with their Thug and then put their Narcomoeba back on top of the library, and then dredge the next turn, and it's just like I need to get through these blockers, and it's really hard when you keep getting back these Golgari Thugs.
Yeah.
So it's it seems like to be a really really good list for dredge.
Yeah.
One other like small innovation that I just want to point out is the addition of the sheltered thicket. So there's to the red green cycling land, and like he definitely had. That with Life from the Loam going a little bit there.
Yeah,
and
so
like being able to like cycle at instant speed, dredge your Life from the Loam. Or like, being able to Life from the Loam twice in the same turn. By like, you do it, cycle, do it again.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of nice, nice little wrinkle to throw in there. I mean, it's not anything big. It's not like a big part of the game plan or anything, but it's a nice little
it's a new
extra thing to do. Yeah.
And we already talked about the Amulet Titan list that was in third place, piloted by Jacob Haberstadt. Another deck that's seed bannings and still continued to do well.
Yeah, I mean, they basically replaced Summer Bloom with Sakura Tribe Scout, which is a 1 mana 1/1 that taps to put a land into play. So it does its best Summer Bloom impression, but clearly not as good. It does open you up a little bit to, especially I think main deck, like their fatal pushes get turned on a little bit.
Yeah.
That otherwise wouldn't be good. But yeah, I mean, obviously the deck is still capable of doing some pretty busted things. So it's still somewhat of a player.
Sometimes it's just raw power. Sometimes it's it just does what it's gonna do, and kind of powers through you. I know that Mike has the list pulled up, and I see like Walking Ballista as being one of the new additions to that deck as well.
Yeah,
which is pretty good when you got a lot of mana available to you. It's a good way to spend it, I think.
I think the thing with Amulet Titan too is like the people that like playing this deck really like playing this deck.
Yeah, exactly.
So
like,
the people that are playing this, like they were probably playing it back when it was dominating.
And I see you have the is that the Hornet's Nest?
Yeah, so there's definitely a Hornet Nest on the board, and I want the dream scenario of having a Hornet Nest and then playing the Ballista, and just each turn, like, I'll shoot it for one. I'll shoot it for one. Just like you're walking Ballista, just like, poke.
Yeah, just
poke.
Just a little beat.
Stop poking the Hornet's Nest. Nah.
Never. I mean, I just wanted the dream of, like, just having, like, Death Shadow and being like, please attack this. I just want you to attack this. I know you won't. I want to be able to, please, just please.
Death Shadow is literally depicted as being like the shadow of death chasing a man. What is its greatest fear? Bees?
Bees? Yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Just one.
Now I just want to have like a Court of Calling in this list, just to make it, just like to force it to happen.
Oh man, you remember we used to be able to do that in Standard?
Yeah.
Oh man,
that's great. It's perfect.
It wasn't that sweet actually.
I mean,
I wasn't a fan.
I was. It was great. I liked it. I like making bees.
I'm sorry you're not a beekeeper.
Yeah.
I hated the Green Devotion deck.
Have you ever read The Secret Life of Bees?
No.
You should. It'll change your life.
I saw a bee movie.
No, it's not even close. I referenced a work of art. You referenced Jerry Seinfeld's biggest mistake.
That was a pretty big mistake.
I'm not even going to defend that. That's pretty true.
I would take Aquila and the Bee over Bee movie, and that's not even the same kind of bee.
That's a completely separate bee.
Oh.
Next up in top 4, we have none other than Redo.
What's this?
Playing like a John that is like dead, that is no more.
He's playing the bootleg Death Shadow deck, which is like old school John.
Yeah, he's like wills this deck back into existence.
It doesn't even matter.
So Reduke is the guy that is like in Monty Python, who just gets thrown on the cart. He's like, I'm not dead yet.
So what are you gonna play with this tournament? Oh, John. They're like, oh, Death Shadow, and he's like, what?
What?
Like what?
Like
What's that card do?
Death Shadow. What?
No, we're
Why would
playing,
I wanna
we're
play
playing
that
like
card?
3 years ago, John.
That sounds terrible. Is that even good?
Oh, no,
I was
we're
going to play
going-
Dark Confidants,
Yeah,
Grim Lava Mancers.
he was full on Jundunum with
yeah.
the one Olivia Voldarin.
I just love that
I wish
card.
it was like a
yeah.
T-shirt that just said Jund Guy on it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
I am this man.
And
I am the Jund man.
Yeah, like God, Olivia's so good. Definitely got to watch him play a game, and they were like he just like resolved an Olivia against the Counters Company deck, and it just took over. It's so good. It's so dirty.
Oh, no.
Oh, wait,
Is that
so,
good against Counter
hold on,
Company?
So Vizier doesn't stop your opponent's creatures from getting +1/+1 counters put on them?
No.
Doesn't, oh, that's
No,
unfortunate.
Just the -1/-1s, man. This is like Jund, and I would suggest playing this deck unless you read Duke.
I feel like this is the like for some reason like this is a weekend where a bunch of players just decided to like, go back to the roots because then you have Todd Stevens playing Eldrazi Tron.
Yeah.
Which he's had this like love affair with. Like if you've read any of his articles and he like went away from it for a while, but he was like, nah.
Well, he was one of the innovators of this deck. You know, when it
Yes,
when it
he
first
was one of
came
the
out.
ones tinkering on it because he was also a big like Ban Eldrazi guy. So he just likes big squigglies. That's all.
Big
Big squiggly.
What do you see here? A big squiggly? Okay. Seriously, you're not even trying on the Rorschach test.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything crazy going on in his list. He's got 4 ballistas. I don't know if that's like I know that they play some number of ballistas.
It's just
but
been increasing. It started off with like 1 or 2, and before is
it makes sense. Like that gives this deck meaningful interaction against the company
Yeah.
deck, which otherwise
They
it's
wouldn't
not going to
have.
have a whole lot. You
Yeah.
know?
Here's what amazes me. He's cut a chalice. He's put one on the board. Like the reason for this deck's existence, at least in the beginning, was like it was the chalice deck. So like for now, for it to be like, oh no, it's just good enough, and chalice is a bonus. You know what I mean? Like I can cut a chalice. That seems actually crazy to me.
I mean, Chalice fluctuates in how
I'm
effective
not
it is.
in
No,
love
but
with
like
chalice right now.
so. Here's the thing, though. In the past, like because this isn't the only Eldrazi Tron list that did well. We saw a number of lists in the GPs too. Like in the past, like if chalice isn't good, this deck isn't good. It was the Chalice deck that played Eldrazi. So for him to be able to like, nah, Chalice isn't that good, and this deck is still good enough. That's I don't know if that's a credit to him as a player or just like is this deck like because I think like Morgan, you played this deck.
Yeah.
I don't think you liked it very much.
It's all right. It fluctuated from like being like amazing to just being like mediocre.
So is it just a deck that just has like those kind of swingy matchups?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
like
fair enough.
sometimes you just like chat like against Affinity. Sometimes you just chalice them on 0 on the play and they concede. Like sometimes that just happens, and you feel great, and then you go to game 2. But I do think that this deck with competent hands does very well, and I think that a lot of people underestimate it. It can do like a lot of surprising things, and this is one of the this deck has main deck relics, right? As well. No, some of them play main deck relics. I see he has Mind Stone.
Yeah, he has Mind Stones.
Yeah. So that's
Warping Whale's a pretty sweet one.
We're
Yeah.
real sweet. All his Dust in the Main is also a really fun one to get to play.
yep, for sure. So you have some powerful draws. I mean, I think increasingly like we've seen like Karn creep up as being more and more of a player. Like I think he's up to 2 in
Yeah,
his
he's
deck.
playing 2 cards.
Yeah, he's playing two
Yeah.
cards.
So you have the possibility of just going like the Tron draw of like
Yeah.
turn 1 like map, you
Right,
know,
and,
play
um,
another Tron piece.
I mean, the advantage that this deck has always had over like regular Tron is that like you don't need Tron pieces to be functional. Like your best, some of your best draws are still like turn 2 Thought Not Seer, which it's still pretty rare, but it's possible.
Some of your best draws involve like not even playing out Tron.
Yeah.
Like you might choose to play an Eldrazi Temple on turn 2 so
Yeah.
that you can run like a Matter Reshaper out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
correct. A Matter Reshaper or a like I said, if you have 2 of them, 2 Eldrazi Temples and a Thought Out Seer, like that's still like one of the most blessed things you can do in Modern. It feels pretty good to have a turn 2 4/4 and take their best card. So a lot of ways to be effective, and still be pretty good with the metagame and still have some ways to combat it that are a little bit different than regular Tron. So
Yeah. Speaking of regular Tron, we really didn't see like at all. I mean, I didn't.
I
see,
mean, like it's
I'm
just.
trying to good.
I just don't think it's like the best deck you could be doing. It's not the best thing you could be doing in the format.
I mean,
Yes, keep talking.
I mean, like you said, it's similar to Eldrazi Tron. Eldrazi Tron's probably being more proactive, I think, is always better in Modern.
Yeah.
Is in general. I think Modern as a format is just so brutal. Like, you want to be the aggressor. I think
so many decks in this format are also running like 4 Thoughtseize, now Stubborn Denial, like the even stuff like Path or anything else. Like the chances of like you're just like your first play coming down on turn 3 unimpeded is not what it was, and a lot of the decks have just a clock to go with it now. Like you're under pressure. So I'm sure Tron will be good again, but for now it definitely seems to not be great. And
it's just on the downswing.
I am a-okay with that.
We had a Sultai Death Shadow.
We do have a Sultai Death Shadow piloted by Ryan Hovis. So this deck is, sort of leveraging, being able to play Stubborn Denial, being able to play Snapcaster Mage.
Tarmogoyf.
With Tarmogoyf and having your cake and eating it too, basically. It is certainly interesting to see things like Ceremonious Rejection getting played. Which
like I said, it was the choice for a number of decks over or in addition to Fulminator Mage.
Yeah.
So I think it makes a lot of sense. Like we talked about, so the traditional Tron lists have pretty much fallen out of favor, and they really rely on having Tron in play. So if those are gone, Eldrazi Tron is not as good at getting the Tron in play. It just basically has a map, but it's not running like all the stars and the cantrips and ways to cycle through. It doesn't even have like Ancient Stirrings and stuff like that. So it's not as imperative to like blow up the lands, I feel like, because you have a little bit more time. Ceremonious Rejection is just better overall. So it's a 1 mana answer to any of the Eldrazi's. It is fine against Affinity, which it's not the greatest thing in the world, but I mean it does counter pretty much anything in the deck.
Yeah, it's serviceable.
My only issue with it, saying like it's better like against Eldrazi Tron, is that like we just talked about Chalice. Like, man, I feel real weird boarding in 1 mana answers to Chalice, especially like play draw style. Like, I feel like that can be really tough because a lot of players like loaded up on it, like had 3 Ceremonious Rejection. It just seems like you get Chaliced and now you've board plan played into their Chalice, and that's awkward.
Well, I don't think it's for Chalice per se. I mean, obviously it can counter it, but like usually you're running.
I'm not saying it's for Chalice. I'm saying like they have 4 number 4 Chalice, and you're boarding in 3 more. Like they're going to name one on you.
Things that get
like all day.
Off.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like Serum Vision, Thoughtseize, Inquisition, Death Shadow. Like they're going to name one all day, and you're boarding in 3 more 1 mana answers. Or 2 in this case. So I feel like it's a little bit awkward, but I get it. It's obviously good, but it does feel awkward to me.
Yeah, but I like Rejection kind of format right now.
I agree.
So, but yeah, I mean, this is losing red is tough. Like if you're not playing red in your Death Shadow deck, you don't get to play like Kolaghan's Command,
which
like
can be an answer to Chalice when they've locked you on 1 and you have Ceremonious Rejection in hand. But
yeah, I think that's the main weakness to something like this version. Like I do think that this has some things going for it, like having Traverse is nice. The Snapcaster is awesome, but like you don't have like Ancient Grudge and like Kolaghan's Command, which are like really important against like Affinity and stuff like that. So I feel like this version definitely suffers in those matchups, but maybe it's a little better in the mirror.
Potentially, and Affinity is sort of like hit or miss. Like you may not even play against it your tournament, so
it's still out there though. I mean, there's still a decent amount out there. It did decently well in all the tournaments.
And like maybe you're just like you're planning your sideboard around hopefully dodging some matchups.
And I mean, in playing Death Shadow, I mean, at least with the kind of modern day Death Shadow lists, Affinity's been the deck that I've had the most trouble with. Like I think, honestly, I haven't done much losing with it, but like I've had like 2 or 3 losses against Affinity in tournaments, which they've all been pretty close, but they just seem to always just have just enough. So I think like leaning towards like beating Affinity is definitely like where I want to be personally.
I think that's why you see like the Flaying Tendrils on the sideboard as well. Like
it's good against the company decks too.
It is, but I mean, like you just need like another way to be able to give something like have another access to a sweeper. Like even Golgari Charm, like it's a very minor sweeper. Like maybe you're not bringing it in against that deck, but even like giving their creatures -1/-1 can be effective to some degree.
I actually like that one a lot better than playing Tendrils. Like Tendrils just seems kind of slow against Affinity, and
it can be. It can be.
But in any case, Sultai is probably like the least popular version that's out there, but I still think it's it's fine.
It's still a shadow deck.
Yeah.
We see Scape Shift. The simple is this just red green, right? Yeah.
He's not running the tech in his deck.
Yeah.
Which apparently is 1 Wood Elves.
Interesting.
So that you can. It says, you could Summoner's Pact. So if you're in 6 mana, you can Summoner's Pact for Wood Elves, play a Wood Elves, go get a land, then cast Scape Shift. The same turn. Which is, it's cute.
it certainly is.
But that's a fine card, though. I mean, it ramps you and
right.
blocks a Death Shadow or something, whatever.
I've also seen, see, this is a list that's also doing that. So the actual new tech is Blood Crypt. And Slaughter Games, 4 Slaughter Games, in fact, in the sideboard. They aren't laughing around.
Playing,
They aren't laughing around as you might suspect. But this has been sort of something I've been tracking on Magic Online. I've been seeing this more and more with the Escape Ship lists, and they really just have cards they can't deal with, and Slaughter Games gets them out.
Have you been tracking it tirelessly?
Yes, there are also tireless trackers.
Just like the tireless trackers.
And also Narda Renegades in the sideboard as well.
Yeah, that's cute.
I mean, blocks Death Shadow pretty well.
That is pretty sweet against Death Shadow. Yeah.
So
I mean, I guess like the Death Shadow list, you're going to board out your like fatal pushes against this. They really don't have any targets. I mean, they have Secure Childbuilder, which you don't ever want to
get them there.
And like if you're playing Grixis, you're probably gonna take your bolts out.
Yeah,
maybe you keep those in. I don't know.
You might. It depends on like what you're putting in.
A bunch of the Grixis lists cut down to 0 or 1 bolt.
Yeah,
so that's also.
I feel like that's wrong.
I do too, but that happened this weekend.
Just because the Counters Company decks have been picking up so much. I mean, that was the most played list in day 2.
Yeah.
Though if you add up all the different Death Shadow lists, they equaled the number of Counters Company. I think it was like 12 or 14 or something.
Oh.
But I don't know. I think Bolt is back to being good, but not too good because it's still kind of average against Death Shadow. But I think it's important.
And just missing out on topic, we do have a burn list, so Burn's still a thing.
Do you want to talk about this Abzan Traverse list? I know you're kind of excited about it.
Yeah, so this is a list that I think Willie Idle has been pioneering, and he wrote an article about it on Friday, I believe.
And then this is Jadine Clown Parents, who then wrote about an article about it today, which was good.
Yes, it was very good. I really enjoyed it. Kind of gave some really great insight on this list. So this is like
Shadowless Shadow.
Yeah, so it is borrowing and taking things from the Death Shadow list, mainly Traverses and Mishra's Bauble, but it does play the game a little bit differently. It is sort of more of a traditional green-black list, but it is a little bit lower to the ground. It is a little bit faster than something like a Jund-ish sort of deck, and just has like a lot of interesting ways to play it. You can play like some silver bullets, in your sideboard, in your main deck, which is pretty interesting, and still have a slightly faster and slower game at the same time. Like you're still a mid-range deck, but you can still beat down and end your games, and you still have access to a lot of like really awesome removal spells. So
not to go back to this pool again, but this is like the mid-morph Animorphs, like between Death Shadow and the Jund deck that Reduke was playing. Like it wants to just be regular Abzan, but it's still kind of stuck in Death Shadow, so it's like it's some horrific abomination. But I love a lot of things it's doing. Like she had me a Bajuka Bog. Like, let's be honest, she had me a Bajuka Bog in the main deck. Like, it's so sweet.
Yeah, I mean, in her article today, she said like she didn't think that would be much of a downside, but having a tap swamp that also makes like your Tarmogoyf smaller can be a downside. So
Sure.
she might even reconsider it. And but yeah, I do like the updated list that she put out today in her article. So that's probably where I'm going to start because this is the kind of deck that I enjoy playing. It might be where I start to look. Huh?
Said, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, you got Lingering Souls, man. You had me at Lingering Souls.
Yeah, this is what the last Modern IQ I played in Columbus. I lost in the top 4 to a version of this. It wasn't this list exactly, but it was similar, and it had the Traverse, Bobble, Grim Flare kind of thing going on there. I think that the list that I played against had more creatures and like more bullets main deck, but it was the same idea. But yeah, I mean I don't think you have to play Jund if you want to play that like black-green mid-range anymore.
Yeah.
Fatal Push has made it so that red is not necessarily needed.
And like having access to a fast lane like Blooming Marsh really opens up your mana base as well. So I think like you can sort of you could do this and it can still be pretty effective. She did like mention how like adding Tassiger was like one of the single best decisions that she made, and like just having like access to like you could traverse for like a 1-mana Tarmogoyf, which is like gosh, that sounds great.
Tassiger is absurd.
I'll sign me up. I'm gonna register. It's gonna be a good time. So. I do like this list. So there's a couple articles out that both by like Willie Idle and J. Dean. So if you want to learn more about them, definitely search for their articles and kind of go from there. But I think this deck is sweet, and it's if you don't necessarily want to go a Death Shadow route, you do have options. And if you're crazy, you can just play traditional Jund. But again, if you're not Reduke, I would advise against
crazy. Or Reduke.
Yeah, correct.
So.
Crazy like a Duke.
Crazy like a Reduke. But this is another option, and it is still, I think, very effective, and it can do some things in the metagame. So, anything else from our open that we want to talk about? Other than like just the overall modern, across all the tournaments that we talked about, the 3 big ones, still feels very diverse. Still has a lot of good archetypes that you can pick from, and I mean there obviously is some consideration. You probably want to have a deck that has some game against Death Shadow, that has a game against the Counters Company deck. But I mean, there's plenty of sideboard options and ways that you can actually fight these decks that make them a fairly broad range of decks that you could play and be effective with.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, definitely have a plan for the Counters Company deck, whether that's just, like, playing more sweepers or whatever. Like, I think this is a list that kind of people maybe underestimated. And I think it really had, like, a big, like, coming out this weekend as being, like, a legitimate, tier 1 deck. So,
yeah.
Most played deck on day 2, like I said. I don't see that changing going forward. I think it's still going to be, one of the most played decks because, like the Amulet Titan decks, like the people that like to play these kind of like toolbox, like green creature decks, like this, this style. You know what I mean? So,
yeah. So we do have a couple of classics here to talk about real quick. Let's start with Modern. And it was won by Jonathan Sekenik, playing Jeskai Control, and defeated Travis Purley, playing 4-color Control. It was a Control v Control. Who says a blue is dead here? Come on, guys. What are you even talking about here in Modern?
I'm not. I played Snapcaster Mage in my Death Shadow deck.
Was he playing Glory Brown Initiate in his deck?
No. In the 4-color list, it's Snapcaster Mages and Tassiger, Golden Fang, OP.
Wow, that is a really weird finals.
Yeah,
I would maybe I could see one of them getting there, but this 4-color list is wild. 1 gifts. Yeah,
it is certainly wild.
It's okay. That's something.
Man, this is crazy. It is a crazy list.
So
Good on ya.
Gifts
Good on ya, Travis
for
Burley.
Lingering Souls, Colgan's Command, Snapcaster Mage, X. Now we're cooking. Yeah, these decks are both pretty sweet. The first place list, Sukanik's list, is playing Censor in the main. Just one, but it's really sweet.
One. Want to talk about this Ironworks combo deck?
No.
Oh
no, you can if you want to. Sorry.
I was gonna say you don't want to shout out Dan Musser finishing 11th.
No.
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 Who's Dan Musser?
Oh, I don't know.
Who's this Daniel Musser character?
I thought I heard of him one time.
He is. This makes me ashamed of him. What are you doing, Dan?
Probably just
He's probably just playing whatever Shaheen told him to play.
It's probably true. Do you think Shaheen told him to play this?
Shaheen played this list.
What?
He was like X and 1 after day 1.
That's crazy.
He fell off in day 2, unfortunately for him. But yeah, I mean, we talked about this list a little bit. I don't know, what, a month ago maybe?
Yes.
Where Pascal Maynard had played it in a GP. But yeah, Ironworks combo, get that Emrakul.
Yep. Get a lot of mana, get that Emrakul. Win the game by casting Emrakul.
Yeah. This list, this deck isn't great like when it's going off either. We talk about like bad decks to watch on camera. This one, if you don't know what's happening, it's kind of hard to follow because you have like scrap trawler triggers and like sacking things to Ironworks and bringing things back. And
yeah, it's not exactly a fun one to watch. Not exactly the most thing to keep you into. You see a lot of players make F6 buttons on their play mats and press them.
Yeah, but it involves. It's not like a combo deck where you can demonstrate a loop. It's like you have to do everything individually. Yeah, so it's add mana.
It's like it's like the worst. It's like the worst version. It's like eggs because eggs was the same way. Eggs was like it had a percentage of like just fizzling.
This is a lot quicker than eggs though. Like typically, like if you're going off like. You're going to be able to go search for your Emrakul or whatever, if you have a Sanctum of Ugin in play.
Yeah.
So
good.
It's not as bad.
Right.
But yeah, this is a thing too. I mean, I think this gets hit by a lot of like unfortunate hate cards, so you kind of have to dodge some of that, if you want to do well with this. But it's certainly a thing that can be pretty explosive. I think it can go off as early as turn 3.
Like that. I mean. Seems pretty interesting, and like people like playing these kind of decks, especially like artifact combo decks and Crack Clan Ironworks. It's just pretty cool card.
That is a card that I'm still like surprised hasn't been banned yet. Like when they first printed that card, I was like, this card seems real busted, and it just never really Affinity was just better than that, like in Varidan block. So it's just like, well, you could just play, Ravager and Disciple of the Vault, so why would you ever play this 4-mana thing? Okay, that's probably true.
Yeah, fair enough. You got me there.
It's always been, kind of in the same crosshairs as Affinity, though. Like, it gets hit by all the same hate. So. But, just the card Crack Clan Ironworks, what the heck, man? Why? Why would you make that card?
Why not?
Because, sometimes it's fair to make... Nope.
No, things that make a lot of mana for relatively low cost. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, I don't have anything else here. I will just point out there was a lot of burn in general. We didn't really talk about it, but there was a lot of highly placing burn lists across all the tournaments that happened.
Yeah,
so burn is not dead by any means.
No, it's still one of the decks that is popular and can still win. So there is a Red Black Eldrazi list.
Yeah, I had that open, which is kind of sweet because it's playing Thundermaw Hellkite.
Yeah, I'm a fan.
We got another sighting of the Strangler.
Oh,
just one though.
Well,
because you play with Eternal Scourge.
He was like a quick,
no, he can't. It has to be there.
Maybe he had a quick blip on the map before he made his way to Kobe.
Strangled one guy in Baltimore.
He just killed one guy and then hopped on a plane. It must have been at the airport. It was on his way.
Blighted Gorge is now top 8 events in Modern.
Wow.
How bad is Standard?
Almost. He got 9th place.
Oh, 9th place. Sorry. So close.
So close.
Virtual top 8 on Breakers.
So what happens if you're playing Modern and your opponent kills you with Blighted Gorge?
You feel sad about your life?
What happens if you're playing Modern and your opponent
just tilt off into space like he's
in orbit. He's in orbit.
What do you do if you get hit with a main deck Molten Rain?
That's gonna feel wrong. Judge.
I like the Chandra split that we have here of Chandra Pyromaster and Chandra Torch of Defiance.
I appreciate this guy because
Still can't play more than one.
I too sometimes stare at my different awesome Chandras and go, I don't know which one to choose, and I just say both of them.
Why not both?
I mean, I probably would have just been like one of each of those, and then one flame collar, and then one whatever the flip one is, whatever that's called.
Really?
I don't
Just
know.
like your Chandra
why not?
Planeswalker theme deck?
Why not? Is this even really what's the black? Just like Fatal Push? That's it.
Fatal Push, Cold Against
Oh,
Command, Terminate.
Okay, very light splash.
Yeah, it's not like I mean like the aforementioned Strangler.
Oh my god, this guy's a maniac. Stone Rains in the sideboard.
Oh yeah,
Just go on the full like LD plan. Like I'm gonna get you.
we are killing lands, and that is what we are about.
And I'm sure he brings in the Symbiont Spirit Guides too, just to supplement that. Like, you know what? I'm just gonna hit you on turn 2. What do you think about that?
Do it. Bring it on, man.
I'm on the draw.
He
Doesn't
ain't
matter.
scared. He ain't scared of anyone's land.
Alan Mock, you are a crazy person.
But we appreciate your gusto.
I don't know if I appreciate it.
Anything else in the modern classic?
No.
I know. I feel like we talked a lot of modern. So let's shift
Let's
gears here.
touch on
Let's talk about
standard.
standard. It had 120. The standard classic had 123 players.
Was
was
200 less players in the Modern Open?
Yeah.
Or Modern Classic?
yeah. I mean that's not shocking. It
That's
was
not
modern
that surprising.
Open.
But still.
It was won by Matt. Was it Tumovich? Yeah.
Yeah. His list is really sweet.
Playing
actually.
Teamer Energy, but not Aetherworks Marvel. Now I am familiar with this deck because I actually had a bit of success with something like this. This is a little bit different. This is a little bit more spell heavy as far as lists go. But I got to top 4 a PPTQ for standard over the weekend with a Teamer Energy list. And this one is playing like main deck negate, which I think is a concession to Aetherworks. I feel like that is probably
I like
why
that
it's in
main
there.
deck confiscation.
Confiscation is
Yeah.
great.
You steal their Marvel, and then you just go crazy.
Go bananas.
You could just keep spinning that wheel.
But we have to see like 3. I played 2 Chandra in my main deck. This one has 3, and then you're cutting a lot of the creatures by like a few bits to kind of have more of a creature focused, aggressive sort of creature base. Mine had more creatures in general, but this one has like long tusk cubs, which I didn't play actually. But
You were playing like Elder Deep Fiends and stuff. Right?
yes, I was playing Elder Deep Fiends in my list, and this one is definitely lacking those. But I think this list is pretty cool. And I'm glad to see it win. I really believe that like these kind of lists can do well, and I really enjoyed actually playing standard this weekend with this list, mainly because I got to play Glorybringer, and Glorybringer is great.
So I'll tell you what, I don't think it's any secret that I haven't been very excited about standard, but after seeing this list, you know what? The Invitational's coming up in about a month. I will run this list right 75 right now.
I mean,
This list
I
is
like
sweet.
these. I like these energy decks. Like I said, that's what I said I was going to be keeping with the cards for that deck, and that'll probably be what I end up sleeving up for the Invitational as well.
Yeah.
So
This is like my style of deck. Like it's like a aggro control. Like it runs a few counters. Get those ceremonial subjections in the board.
And you can't
For a whole
even
different
like
reason in
when
this
you take a
format.
look at like this actual list, like what are the cards that are going to be like rotating? The Flame Collar on the sideboard,
The one.
Tireless Tracker.
Tireless Tracker. Okay,
That's a big one, but it's not like gonna kill the deck.
And like you could play like a version of this list that doesn't even have Tireless Tracker main. I didn't even play Tireless Tracker in my 75. That might have been a mistake, but I didn't.
Some of our forests rotate as well. I'm not sure.
But I mean, you have a list that you hope that you can pick up other things that kind of fill the void that the cards are leaving. But a lot of these things are staying around, which is pretty hopeful for a deck that, I mean, has already a good base before we get to new sets. So it's pretty encouraging. I think that you should keep an eye on this list, and then once we get to rotation, which is still a ways off, but keep this in the back of your mind. I think it's good.
I mean, we've talked.
I
about
believe
this.
in
We've talked about this before. I mean, just the whole like energy package Even like take Aetherworks Marvel out of the equation. Like if that card never existed, like still like the energy package, like especially in the teamer colors, is just like really good. It's really solid, and I think you can go like, I think we've seen that you can go multiple different ways with it. Like you said, like you can play like an emerge package if you want. Mm-hmm. You can play something like this, which is more of like a mid-range creature deck with like counter spells. I don't know. I think like that's cool, and like I like energy in that way. Now, when it gets twisted into like these combo decks, then it's like it's not cool anymore.
Yeah, when you're casting
like
turn
that.
4 Ulamogs, then it's
like, it's a Healy combo.
I like monster energy myself, but yeah, I get where you're coming from.
But I really like
more
this
of a Red
list.
Bull guy, but that's just me.
I really like this list, and like I think this is a good place to go forward. If you're planning on playing something similar to this, I think you'll be pretty successful with it. I know that this actually influenced the mocks on that actually got played. Or maybe this did. Maybe because it would have been like happening consecutively. Because this another list like this also 6-0'd. Yeah, I think it was like the exact 75. So, if I'm not mistaken, I could pull up MTG Goldfish, but
I like it. Like I said, I would run it. It's too bad that the Invitational is that far away because I'm sure the meta might shift a little bit. But I would play this 75 right now. Like if the tournament was tomorrow.
Yeah, I get behind
sweet.
that. I get behind it.
okay. So it was,
I'd probably play for Glorybringer because I want him, but
yeah. So it was yesterday. So yeah. So this in the MOC. No, it's a standard PTQ. The standard PTQ. Yanatoid ran the exact. From what I can see, pretty much the exact 75 and went 6-0. So
I think it'll be interesting to see. I mean, I think this looks legit. I guess we'll find out because this weekend we have 3 standard GPs happening, and if we don't see like a million Aetherworks Marvel decks, then I'd be interested to see how something like this does.
Yeah.
Or, like maybe this is like the next step to fight Marvel
to combat it,
because it seems like it'd be pretty good against it.
cool. I like being ahead of the curve a little bit and playing a similar archetype. I liked it a lot. I had a really good time. Man, like Bristling Hydra just gave people fits, which was great.
yeah, card's hard to beat.
And like just kind of like you just had to like I felt like I had clear like game plans against a lot of things. Like when playing Marvel, there was a clear game plan, but you felt like you had weird decisions to make with your energy. But this one was always like playing this deck always felt pretty clear on like what you should be doing at all times. So it was very enjoyable.
I think what I like about this is it seems to, and again I haven't seen any games played with it. I haven't played any games with it. Just looking at the composition of the deck, it seems to me that it would have a positive matchup against Aetherworks, and I would much rather play something like this that is like proactive with creatures than like something like Blue Red Control, which also like supposedly has a good matchup against Aetherworks, but just kind of like can have these games where it just sits there and doesn't do anything, and like you can end up losing games that like maybe you thought you should have won,
Right.
because you just can't close out a game. So much like Modern, I'd prefer to be
Proactive.
a little proactive, at least have a little bit of offense.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Don't go beyond the top 4 here. We can
Yeah.
zombies.
I want to talk about the rest of the top 4.
Yeah,
Yeah, I just want to talk about the Team Energy deck because I'm a big fan, and I got to talk about myself. So
yeah. Good job this weekend, bud.
thank you. I don't want to brag. I don't want to boast. I just want to say I like toast.
Yeah, toast.
Oh man, good times.
That's really good.
So that is everything for the constructive portion of the show. Before we head into our question of the week, this is going to be a fairly long one, but you guys earned it. You were very good this week. You had a long weekend. You didn't get blackout drunk, and we appreciate that.
And if you did, we'll turn an eye.
We'll turn a blind eye to it. Yeah, for sure. So before we jump into our question of the week here, I do want to give a quick shout out to our other sponsor of the show, BCW Supplies. They of course provide so many awesome products that they give to the community. through various giveaways and stuff like that we also host, and we're planning on doing another one here down the road, and they also sell those things. So if you want to buy them, check out their website, bcwsupplies.com, or check them out at Facebook by doing a quick search for BCW Supplies, and kind of give you an insight of what kind of products they offer, and probably the first place to really get a eye on things that are going to be coming soon. So if that's something that you like to check out, definitely give them a follow, a like, and check out their website. It's the best place for all your Magic the Gathering needs.
Or buy them at Comic Town.
Or buy them at Comic Town. All right. Question of the week. I think it's a good question of the week. And we haven't had one of these in quite some time. And, we talked a lot about Modern. And previously, have talked a lot about Standard and sort of our dissatisfaction with it. And really this question is, what in Modern can we look at that can help us understand and maybe better things that are going on in Standard? And this is sort of like a, what cards are we missing? Things like that. Like developmentally speaking, what makes Modern so diverse? And what things, because we know obviously we can't be like, well, just add more cards to Standard. Like, sure, like, yes, that would automatically make it more diverse. But what's Modern got that Standard ain't?
I sort of posed this question, and I considered writing a little bit about it, because I tried to point out as we were talking about it just a ridiculous amount of diversity we saw across these Modern events, and the excitement of the player base. Like, you had Star City cap out, you had Japan have thousands of people playing. Like, these are big events, and you look at the classics. You know what I mean? Over 300 people for the Modern Classic in Baltimore, and 120 for Standard. Like, this is important. So there's some things I was trying to think of, what does Modern do right that Standard isn't doing correctly anymore, or isn't doing right anymore? And it could, like I said, it could be specific cards. I think it's ideas mostly, and I kind of want to start with answers. Okay, and not just answers to the question. I know, I get it, but answers as in the form of Magic cards. And the card I sort of started the conversation with Dave about earlier was something simple like Duress. Right? Not that Duress sees a lot of play in Modern. You have Inquisition, you have Thoughtseize, but more selection and discarding. And I look at a card like Duress, which to me sounds like a catch-all. In Standard, currently, you have Transgress the Mind and Lay Bare the Heart.
Don't forget about
Harsh Scrutiny. I know, that only hits creatures. So you have 3 discard spells in black, and there might be, I think those are the playable ones, that are, none of them hit Heart of Kirin. What?
Not a single one.
The other one, Lay Bare the Heart, doesn't hit Heart of Kirin or Aetherworks Marvel. They're both legendary. Harsh Scrutiny hits, Planeswalkers, right? Or just creatures?
Nope, creatures.
Oh, okay, so it hits nothing.
Correct.
Oh, you can discard the Ulamogs they have in their hands.
There you go.
You can scry one.
Show them.
You do get to scry one.
But if you had Duress, throughout this entire format, you could have discarded Heart of Kirin, Aetherworks Marvel, Gideon, Saheeli Rai. Why,
like Glimmer of Genius.
Yeah, well, I'm saying the cards that have been problems.
Yeah,
you had a card that should be close to Evergreen. You know what I mean? That takes care of them. You've been making creatures better, which already inherently makes Duress worse in certain matchups. So it's not busted or anything Standard, but we haven't seen it since Dragons. So we're 3-4 blocks away now. You know what I mean? So, and I don't mean streets. Stick with me here, okay? So that is the kind of thing I'm talking about, where the answers should be more. It doesn't have to be Path to Exile. It doesn't have to be Thoughtseize. We saw what Thoughtseize did to Standard. I get it, but I'm talking about the ideology about having answers that can interact with the cards you're printing. Morgan, when we were discussing this, you had brought up that obviously they didn't want to hit Heart of Kirin because they wanted vehicles to be successful.
Yeah.
But where's the confidence in design that says this card's going to be good enough to see play, and it's going to force you to need the answer card? Because that's how I think it should work. Things are good, and then the player must go look for the answer to that good card. Not the card is so good the player desperately wants an answer and doesn't get it. And I think Wizards gets upset because you could say, well, we gave you Fatal Push, and don't get me wrong, one of the best removal spells of all time. It's great, but I think that they get worried when they print a card like Fatal Push and then it affects Modern the way it does, because well, my God, if it's this good in Modern, we can't keep giving them cards like that. It's obviously too powerful, and I think that's a ridiculous way to look at this. You know what I mean? Fatal Push is nice, but Fatal Push isn't even seeing that much play right now in Standard. there's one deck or two. I'm sorry, it was zombies and black green that are playing it. Like, like I don't understand why the answers continue to be so bad, and like not just bad. Like you can have specific answers, but like they're not broad enough. They're so narrow that you can't play them and hope to win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that. And kind of to go along like what you're saying with the answers, I think like I guess to open that up, like just sideboard cards. Like so, like if you look at Modern, and this is like a common complaint actually about Modern is that like, oh well, the sideboard cards are too powerful. Like they have too much of an effect on the game. But I mean, at least you have ways to fight back. Like you know what I mean? Like it would discourage everybody from playing the same deck if there was just like if there was a card that just like completely shut down Marvel decks, like you wouldn't see it being like 35-40% of the metagame or whatever. So I don't know. I guess I could see like both sides of it, that like you want to make like really like answers that are going to be high impact. So not even just like answer cards, you know, like reactive cards, but just ones that are going to have a high impact that are actually going to like swing matchups. Now, maybe something like Stony Silence, that's like a little too hard. Like, you know, that just shuts off a lot of decks like in Modern. But I don't know. I think that's the way you'd have to go with it, because trying to make Standard more like Modern it's never going to work, because it's just they're too different. Like you're looking at like a huge pool of cards versus a very small pool of cards.
Sure, and I totally get that. And things have to rotate, but I do think that like if you look at a card like Negate, it's been printed. It's there. They want Negate to exist, and like I don't know, maybe they do something like the intro deck thing and just like pick these 10 catch-all sideboard cards, and like these are literally evergreen in Standard. Like Pithing Needle should just be evergreen in Standard. You know what I mean? Like you should have an answer to cards that are problems. You know what I mean? Like. Or a Pithing Needle-esque effect. And you could say, but wait, you have Gideon's Intervention. Stop it. Stop it.
It only costs 4 times as much.
When you're already dead to the Ulamog before you can cast the Intervention, something's wrong. Okay? Not that card's even good in that matchup, but
yeah.
It would have been Saheeli, I guess, with the Fellow Guardian.
Right.
But I agree with that. You're not going to have as robust of answers. But I think even further than that, you could talk about what we've talked about in here before. You know, going back to letting answers to blocks exist in the block. You know, when we had Scars of Mirrodin, you had Creeping Corrosion in block, and you still had Tempered Steel win Worlds. So it wasn't like, oh no, Shadowstorm existed in the format, artifacts can't win in our artifact block. No, they were still good enough, the deck was good enough that you won anyways. And did people play Creeping Corrosion? Yes, they did, but it didn't, you know, they won with that card when they drew it, and sometimes they didn't, and that's fine. They forced them to play Creeping Corrosion, not the other way around. Instead now, we have an artifact block and literally not a Shatter in Standard. You could say, oh, Red has these. No, Red doesn't have Shatter currently. What world do we live in?
That's all I wanted.
Green has block. Shatter with upside. Like, Shatter with cycling. And Red, there's the color that should be able to, like, what is Red's color identity? I don't know. We burn things and we can break machines. Right? Like, nah, we can't do that anymore. Like, clay pots, that's for us to break. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have that. Or we had graveyard-centric abilities and literally nothing to interact with the graveyard until just now. Until Scarab Feast and the cats that watch everything.
Mm-hmm. I think, like, going back to your example with the Creeping Corrosion, I think what makes it interesting is, you know, not that there's a card that's just going to completely hose one strategy, but it's like, okay, so you have Tempered Steel decks, right? And then in response to that, people are going to play Creeping Corrosion to try to fight back. And, like, maybe that's a really effective sideboard card. Now, what does Tempered Steel do to fight back against that?
The good deck has to fight back against it and play into a metagame.
Right.
Which
so maybe it changes a little bit.
Building.
Yeah, maybe it changes a little bit. Maybe it like splashes another color to, you know, maybe it splashes like a counterspell so that it can be prepared for the Creeping Corrosion that's going to come in. That is more interesting to me when you see that interplay and like decks evolve and like different decks, you know. It's not that you need to have like 50 different decks in Standard. That's never going to happen because you just don't have the card pool for it. And like most of the cards that are printed in Standard aren't even going to be Standard playable because they need to make limited, you know, they need to make limited balanced and fun and all that. So I get all that. But like they need to make it so that there's some back and forth there. You know, it's not just like, okay, we found the best deck in 3 weeks and then this is just going to be it until the next set. Like that's really boring to me. Like,
I think you hit the nail on the head, and like I said, going back to what I sort of said, I want to combine that idea. That like you want the decks to have to interact with the answers so they can become better, and you can create a metagame. And I want Wizards, I want R&D to be confident that the cards they design are gonna see play, even if you can beat it. You know what I mean? Like, were you so afraid that Delirium wouldn't see play that you couldn't put something in to stop it? Right? Like, Delirium now is literally a defining ability in Modern. A format with Rest in Peace and Spellbomb and Relic of Progenitus and Surgical Extraction.
Now, to be fair, you do have way easier ways to enable Delirium.
Yeah, but that's the tipping point. You have the best answers to go with it, right?
Like
what do you have in Standard? You have the best cards that
are
are seeing play in Modern, but up until now, zero interaction.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, that doesn't make sense to me.
So, like, the hard part, the balancing act that they have to do is they have to print hate cards that are interactive cards that are not too powerful to completely, hamstring a mechanic that they're printing, but still effective enough to actually see play.
Sure.
And I think that they are having a hard time figuring that out.
And I don't understand it because they did it well for so many years. And I'm trying to think of even the best hate cards recently. We've talked about Glare of Heresy on here many times, right? Did that stop people from playing white?
Some people from playing Heliod.
Maybe certain cards,
yeah.
but the only way that card could be sideboardable is if the white cards were seeing play, and that's the balance. You know what I mean? Like, well, we don't want cards like that stopping people from playing those cards. It's like, but it didn't, because if it stopped people from playing those cards, then you couldn't sideboard Glare of Heresy, and that's the tipping act. That's literally the balancing act. I didn't mean to cut your point off, though.
No,
I'm sorry.
you're good.
I agree. They do have to be careful with that. Yes, yeah. Like if they put something out there that was just like, I don't know, like layer of tax, and all the vehicles' tires got blown, and they couldn't be crewed. You know what I mean? Like, I get it, but like, what happened? What happened where we went from this? If this card is good enough to see play, or good enough in the block, then we have confidence that it will see play despite people having an answer for it too. Like, well, Gideon's on the pack. We better make sure he's the best planeswalker in Standard for 2 years. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what happened to the middle ground.
I think the issue is, the answers, they're not going to see play unless there's something to answer. So, like, you need to make the cards good enough in the first place to make you want to answer it. I guess another example would be Grafdigger's Cage and an Innistrad block in the original one. Like, it didn't stop people from playing Snapcaster Mage because that card was just way too good. Stuff like that. But, like, the option was there, which was nice, but, like, the good decks will find a way to get around the hate, or, maybe they'll sideboard into a different plan, or, maybe they'll bring their own hate to the hate cards. I think that's way more interesting, and it makes, a much more dynamic format than... we figured out the best deck.
Just talking about Modern, we looked at these Grixis Death Shadows lists, which we said are becoming pretty close to finalized, to tuned, but still the sideboards are in flux. Do you play the Ceremonious Rejection? Is that better? Do you play the, now I'm going to lose the name of the creature.
Fulminators.
Thank you. Do you play Fulminator Mages? You have a couple slots you can play around with. Do you play another Extraction? Do you play another Spellbomb? Do you want more Graveyard Hate? Do you play another Kolaghan's Command because you need the Artifact Hate? Like, I played a Rise and Fall because I'm a Savage and a monster, and I don't know why. And I definitely was awesome, and I love that card. But I think, like, yes, you're never going to have as many options in Standard as you will in Modern, never. But it does feel like recently, and maybe it's just the fatigue from this block cycle. Maybe it's just a series of like mythic errors. I mean that very specifically, like a bunch of mythics that had errors with them. Emrakul, Saheeli combo, and I think now Marvel. You know what I mean? Maybe like this is enough to like we're in the crevice of this chart that's about to go back up. But I'm really worried about their fear of printing good answer cards.
So, do you want to hear a really jaded reasoning?
Yes, I do. I want to hear it.
So here's the jaded reasoning. In the end, Magic makes money off of not us, not competitive players. It's not where Magic makes its dollar bills, y'all. They make it off of people who want to buy sealed product and crack packs, because that's where stores make money. Stores have to buy more product, so on. Distributors have to carry more product. Yeah, up the line. That's where they make their money. So you open a pack. What's your rare constructed hate card? that is not like that doesn't like hook you. That doesn't get you. So where do you have to put your hate cards now? Maybe uncommon. So now you're taking up this uncommon slot, and you have to balance an uncommon card as a potential hate card, and maybe it's literally just like not being able to design hate cards effective enough to like, because then you're seeing like, well, now your hate card is going to be seen more in draft. Like now people will have more access to your shatter effects and things like that inside the environment. So like now you're in this really awkward spot of having to print hate cards that now are going to affect the limited environment a little bit more, so that your mechanics in the limited environment aren't as effective. Where in constructed they might be offset and that might be still fine, but it's like a thing where it's like, well, people won't buy packs because they don't want rares that are garbage, and then or that aren't flashy, aren't big creatures, or like something that might appeal to a more casual player. And you don't also want to have a terrible draft format. So I think that could be something that plays into this.
Isn't that like literally Gideon's Intervention though? Like they still make cards like that, but they're just not good enough. Like,
yeah.
Like, I don't know.
But see, like even Gideon's Intervention probably gets people somewhere, right?
The casual player is like, oh, my friend who always plays this card.
Yeah, now I'm going to get him because I have this card.
I get that. I totally get that.
I definitely agree with that, and that's obviously a reason why they started moving away from things like flash fires or boil. Things were obviously not fun. You know what I mean? Both legal and modern, by the way, unless you forgot, or at least boil is. Maybe flash fires isn't. I have to remember. Anyways, and I will definitely give you that. But my counter argument would be two things. One, I mean, Stony Silence is a rare, so is Grafdigger's Cage is a rare, and Modern Masters still sold packs. Granted, it's a master set, but like casuals love those packs too.
You had a higher upside though, and also
you supposedly have a higher upside. MSRP never bears out on those things unless you open a mythic. You are not at value. So you're not, as an individual opening packs, you are not at a higher value. But, That's a lie.
You don't
even you
don't open packs. You open packs to win big. You don't open packs like.
But if that's the logic, then you're going to be disappointed by anything that's not splashy. Anyways, that same person opens up a rare land and they hate it too. But Wizards isn't going to stop printing rare lands.
No.
So that's my other argument.
But so, like, so then, you could at least like use a rare land depending on what you.
Sure, I'm going back to my fix. This is my literal fix. I want a fixed list of cards that are generic hate cards that can be in standard at all times, like the intro deck cards. Just like Shivan Dragon can be in standard and never be in a pack, so can Celestial Purge. It can be in this list of cards, and then Wizards don't have to worry about it. Casuals don't have to open it, and they can change that list. Same with the ban list. They can say, okay, these 15 cards are also legal that are sideboard cards or hate cards, and I might rotate with the blocks. That's it. I fixed it.
Yeah, but then again, I mean, like you still have to have that intro deck as being a product you can give to a new player for them to understand and play the game. Like,
well, no, because those things aren't for those are for casual players. Don't play in Magic tournaments. That they don't play in the opens and stuff. They don't need that.
They play those intro decks. Like that's how you teach people how to play Magic.
I'm saying like the intro decks. I'm not saying it's actually. In the intro
so you just want like a separate list of cards that's always available to be played.
I can tell you, a bunch of the cards in those intro decks can actually randomly be hard to find. Do you know that there's it's not Lightning Bolt. It's Lightning Strike, the 4-mana one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a 4-mana, deals 4 damage to a creature or player. It's either in the intro deck or the Planeswalker deck.
It's the Planeswalker deck.
It's expensive.
Yeah.
It's the only effect like it in standard. Sometimes when you had a 4-mana creature and a Planeswalker with 4 loyalty, sometimes you needed a card that did both of those things. They were okay with putting that in a Planeswalker deck and saying good luck, standard players.
I don't think that card is necessarily like.
I'm just saying it has happened.
I don't think that card's like.
It has happened.
Standard geared though. Like that's a happy accident.
Okay. It doesn't matter though.
Yeah.
Let me just throw this out there. Why is it that far-fetched to just say, you know what? Maybe they should just try to make the game the best it can be.
In the army?
And then, well,
to who?
No,
though?
but they have supplemental products for like the casual players. You know, they have. We just talked about Commander products
to a certain subsect of the casual players. Yes.
So maybe is the problem? Does it boil down to like there's too many different ways to play Magic now, and they need to try to please everybody?
Yes, that is an actual problem
because it wasn't a problem before because it was just like, well, we have this game and we have tournaments. There was no such thing as Cube or Commander.
I think it was a problem before because of the design philosophy. They were designing for different
it's come a long
people
way.
back then. Back in Innistrad, like original Innistrad block, they were designing for different players.
But those blocks, Zendikar all the way through those blocks from Zendikar, Innistrad, Shadows block, Return to Ravnica block, for a while there were just continually breaking records for players. Like, huge growth with players because the sets were great, even though they still had this. Innistrad was loved, even though you could open Grafdigger's Cage. So if the set's good enough and the game is in a good place, then it doesn't matter.
But I mean, so like, but again, you can't like necessarily like say that current growth, because they don't design blocks in step. Like Innistrad block originally was like already in the books before like Magic had its growth. It had to have been.
Well, you had to start somewhere.
Yeah, no, yeah, but that's what I'm saying. I'm saying when the set came out, it sold incredibly well.
Sure.
So, like, even though you could open those things in there, the set was so good and flavorful, and the format was so good that people loved it.
The set was designed before the growth happened.
Right,
What?
but it was part of the reason for the growth.
Like, and then the set comes out and it continues the growth. I'm not talking about the growth before that set. Yes, obviously, Innistrad gets a reflection of the growth that was brought on by Zendikar. I see what you're saying, but like that growth continued for many, many cycles, and those sets were all like beloved.
Right, and then the growth of the game influences design.
Okay, but that
I see what Morgan's saying.
I get what you're saying too, but then like that is circuitous in the other direction.
But
If those sets cause the growth of the game, then you will continue making those sets because that's what people came to the game for.
Right, like why did this change now? It's like, we have all the people that we want
you're
now.
You're literally considering catering to an audience that doesn't exist because the sets that cause that growth, you're no longer designing sets
But
like that.
I don't think we have all the data. Like I don't think
No, we definitely don't. This is conjecture.
because we don't have like they send out surveys like to people.
I wanted to hit on this.
Who does those surveys and what do they tell them? Because I don't do those surveys.
I do.
I did one. Yeah,
I can't say they do them. I think that they're too long, and I just could care less.
Well, that's not true though because you have a podcast where you're discussing it. So no, you're the voter who didn't vote. But I want to make mention of. So I was talking about this
I'm
sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, Dave, please don't disconnect the soundboard.
Oh man,
sorry.
Wow.
Please don't do that, Dave. Okay, we're still good. Don't scare me like that, though. Anyway, I think that I really feel like the people who do that survey more overwhelmingly are the people who are casual in the game.
Maybe I think,
I mean, there's just more of them.
I would see this is the stuff we don't have the information on. We have to see the traffic for the mothership too, because I'm telling you what, most casual players do not know what the mothership is. Like that was an issue for literally years. Is that the mothership and like the thing before the dojo before it and duelists and all those things.
Sideboard.
Yeah, the sideboard literally only appealed to like people who wanted to read articles for that. Like they've tried very hard to bridge that, but I'd love to see the numbers on it because it was literally forever that it was like WotC, like the website was like, what's that? The casual player does not search out articles on the internet. So. And as a blanket statement, that might be a little presumptuous, but it's not that far off. Like the people who go and seek further content for that specifically for like constructed and stuff, don't tend to be the casual person.
No, but I also don't think that the daily MTG page serves only the constructed, like the
no. But I'm saying I would love to see the data on that because for a long time that's definitely where it was skewed. That's why they've had 9 different redesigns and writers shifting all the time because they're desperately trying to grab more of the base. But I want to say so. The one thing that you have to look at then is standard numbers, right? Because standard is still the format that they want to drive everything. They wouldn't be doing invocations. They wouldn't be doing the Masterpiece series at all. They wouldn't be doing all these battle pack things if they weren't trying to drive standard. And when you look at the numbers we keep seeing here, the GP comparisons, and Elliot and I, when we were talking before about, and you were in the car with that too, the Planeswalker points, and I wonder if they use Planeswalker points as a data point, because I was talking about how this year, compared to the last 4 years of playing Magic, my Planeswalker point numbers are incredibly down. Like, I played in a lot of big events, but I have stopped playing in a lot of smaller events, and I do not play casual, like, standard events pretty much ever anymore in the last 6 months to a year. And I do wonder, like, they've got to use that as a tracking point. So I wonder if, regardless of this, even if what we're talking about in this specific conversation isn't the full problem, Wizards has to look at it from that angle at some point. Because if they're going to keep appealing to the casual player, that's great. They'll sell booster packs, but you're not going to have the store engagement that they want to have the store that sells the packs. So you're going to lose that part. You're going to lose that huge part of your company. So the players who want to play tournaments are still there. Like look at this weekend. The numbers are still there if you build it. They will come. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I think I'm like I see like all these different points. I want to like put up like a tack board and like tie the strings together and try to figure it out. You know what I mean?
I mean, like,
is it the Nightman? I don't know.
Since I started playing, so I started playing like Magic 2013 forward, like so saw like Innistrad block and everything like that. Since that going forward, I have seen Magic become less and less powerful. Like it become
powerful.
Like the overall power level of things that are going on has been going down and down and down. In my opinion,
I would disagree with that. I would think the power level's been high. I think the skill has gone down. I think the skill level has gone down. The powerful things are overtly powerful and easy to do.
So maybe that is a better correlation.
And I think that goes back to what we've talked about with the mythic problem. You know what I mean? Like, obvious cards are obviously incredibly powerful, and obvious cards are easy to make obviously good.
The most egregious card was Smuggler's Copter, because like all of us were just like, yeah, we're just playing 4 Smuggler's Copters in some deck, you know?
So maybe that's the case. Maybe that they are trying to make big splashy cards. They want them to show up. Like, we made this card, we don't want it to have an easy answer.
Well, now they've banned a bunch of cards, so I think they're going to have to reconsider how they do this.
I think so, too.
Now, I will say this. They have said, I know Sam Stoddard has said, you know, they've recognized that they need more answer cards, and that is something that they will look to do. Mm-hmm. And now it may take a while, it may take a couple blocks before we actually see that change, you know, happen, because they're so far in the future when they're designing their sets. But it sounds like they're aware of it. We have the new playtesting. No, that's not it. Was it the new team that they're implementing
the
to
play design team or
play
something
design
like that.
team? Yeah, to help implement better gameplay. So that might take a while before we actually see the results of that come forward. So it sounds like they're aware, and I think it sounds like they're on the right track to getting things fixed. Unfortunately for us, it might take a while for these things to come to fruition, and hopefully tournament attendance, especially standard. I think modern's fine, but standard's it's a little rough right now. Hopefully that can bounce back, and get back to where it was, because I love standard was my favorite format for a long time, but I
feel like the brewing element is gone, and I think we talk about the casual player. Like, I don't say gone. Like, you can still try, and we saw the Team Energy deck, and that's cool. But like, I think for so many people, like I don't think it matters like net decking, and that's not what I mean. But if the default deck is just literally like before, it was just like, okay, well, cast Copter or Hard on 2, and then play your Gideon, and that's really kind of what you have to do consistently. Or like, all right, make energy, play Marvel, hit Ulamog. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that's healthy for either direction of the argument. You know what I mean? Like, yes, players want to do splashy things and keep doing that. Make Nicol Bolas awesome, but don't make Nicol Bolas castable on turn 4 for any color of deck, because you want to satisfy Hearthstone fans with your RNG creator. You know what I mean? And I think like for other Magic players, like I want to go back to the balance. I want that balance again. You know what I mean? If this card is so good, then you'll give me an answer for it. Because if you look at a card like Ulamog, you know what I mean? Shouldn't be easy to answer, unless of course there's a deck in standard that can put it out on turn 4. And they knew there was going to be a deck in standard that can do that. And unless of course they didn't test Marvel literally at all, right? But instead, what do you get? You get either sorcery speed removal for it, right, in Declaration and so on, which isn't a terrible answer, but when your opponent can cast it as an instant,
it is.
Or you get like Stasis Snare and Cast Out. But of course, the problem with those is you've created a card that has an exile trigger that can just clean up those answers no matter what. So you've created a loop where like you think you're making robust answers, like Cast Out looks great on paper, like should be a format defining removal spell, and actually can't compete in any fashion as an instant because of it. So there's just a flaw in their way of thinking about answers. And like maybe they're coming from the pure Mark Rosewater design space where let's design cool things and then hopefully they'll be good. But if they're going to keep doing that, then sets are going to get worse and worse. Look at Modern. I'm going to go back to the original points. I'm going to conclude pointing back to my thesis. Look to Modern. Yes, you can't make the card pool bigger, but you can make the answers more robust. You can make people actually have a metagame where they push back and forth on each other. Not just, well, if I overload with negates in the main, hopefully that'll be enough of a catch-all to do it. You know what I mean? Like, give us a little bit of interplay back and forth, and maybe create the at your end step patented 15-court like perma sideboard for standard. That's wordy. You guys can play with the name as long as it's at your end step in there some fashion and goes back to us.
It might be confusing though. They'd be like, "Wait, can I only put instants in my sideboard then? So I can only play them at the end step."
Like people don't understand how that works at all. So like I can't imagine.
Well, then just Mike Kenny's sideboard plans. It's a perma sideboard option, perma sideboard idea,
and that's just another list for them to screw up. Let's be fair.
You can only play red and white mid-range cards.
Oh my gosh! Yes. So, can we move on to the second question of the week?
There's no more time.
No. So
how long is this for?
I want to ask another question about the TV show Early Edition.
No,
so I told you about this earlier in the thing about it's a TV show where a guy got a newspaper every morning that told him about a story that was going to happen the next day and he could prevent it. What would happen if they rebooted that show in modern times? Millennials don't know what a newspaper is. Like they like that's the thing that they use to blow their nose on, like when they're like, you know, like walking down like the street.
It's the thing you put down for like your puppy so they doesn't pee on your floor.
So
like when we have the early edition, but it's just like a new tablet every morning, and then like the person on the show just has like 500 iPads. Like
it's just a tweet that you get, and you're like, and then you look at it and you go fake news, and then you move on. So no,
it's just the God Twitter account, like it's just like God, like, hey, this is gonna happen tomorrow. Okay,
whatever, man.
And then like the next day, it's like you let 20 people die, and it's like that's not how this works.
He's just like blocked.
Show's canceled.
He has to start any Twitter account. Just got to.
Got to. Oh man, it's so good. Like, hey, I'm serious this time. All right, bud.
Well, I'm gonna block you within. Anyway, early edition. Sorry, no reboot in the works. Times they are changing, and that show has been, left in the dust.
It ran for 4 seasons.
Well,
had almost 100 episodes according to Wikipedia.
You know what?
Almost didn't quite get
90.
to the.
Got 90.
Didn't quite get to.
Hey, to be fair, if if print media is smart, they would reboot it and cast like the best actors in it so that people would buy newspapers again.
To be fair, this show was already ahead of its time, though, for internet viewers. The show chronicles the life of Gary Hobson, a resident of Chicago who receives, the Chicago Sun-Times. They literally paid for that. Like, it's like not just a newspaper. It was the Chicago Sun-Times.
Yeah.
But his newspaper is delivered by a mysteriously unknown entity at least once each day and is accompanied by a ginger tabby cat. So, like, a cat was always there. So it's just like, that's how you tweet. It's like the first tweet from God is a picture of a cat. And it's like, oh, okay, I'm in. And then it's like, hey, do this to prevent, like, this attack tomorrow. And you're like, and then that's like one more picture of the cat. You're like, all right, I was going to say no, but this cat's adorable. So, like...
No one make this show, please. This is an awful idea.
I'm just really excited. I actually managed to get you guys to engage at early edition for a little while. I'm so good.
More than life itself. All right, we're ending this show pretty abruptly. Moving on to the end right now. All right, we already talked about the Comic Con things that are going to be happening over the weekend, but again, it's a Team Seal Trios on Saturday and a Modern IQ on Sunday, so just make it out to both. Have a big old Magic weekend. And then we have some GP Omaha, Manila, and Amsterdam, and all 3 of them are standard. So if you like Teamerworks, Teamer Aetherworks, boy, do we have 3 tournaments for you. No, just kidding.
What about Teamer not Aetherworks?
Yeah, I mean, there could be stuff that isn't Teamer Aetherworks, but who knows? Currently, I just checked MTG Goldfish, and counting paper and online results that we have available to us, Teamer Aetherworks is 36% of the meta. Getting close to that 40% mark.
Moving on up to the band side.
We'll see, but I highly doubt it. But that is going to be everything for us this week. So thank you again for downloading us. From whatever place you get your podcast from. If it is from iTunes, feel free to give us a review. That definitely helps our visibility and lets people find us. Also, if you got us from MTG Cast, be sure to check out all the other shows that MTG Cast has available. If you like Magic in any way, shape, or form, there's a podcast out there for you. You can also reach out to us. So we have a Twitter, it's Your End Step, and then you can add us at Your End Step because we're clever. We also have Facebook at Your End Step. If you do a quick search on there, you'll find us. And then our email address is at yourendstep@gmail.com. But again, that's pretty much everything for this week. We'll catch you guys next time, and you have a great one. Bye.